Yes, indeed. It's Saturday, right? So you know what it is. It's Saturday night. Shoot the breeze. So here we are, episode 227. Isn't that something? 227 episodes in, man. We've done well for ourselves. With that said, you know what I like to do? I like to get on here before we start the show officially and let you guys know what it is we have in store for you guys tonight. If you can hear my voice, I see a couple of y'all out there. If you can hear my voice, drop a 1 in the chat. Let me know you're here and that you can hear my voice over the digital airwaves of YouTube, as Stephen A. Smith says. Let me know if you could hear my voice before I get into the show's topics tonight. Oh, we got Kofi the Black Critic out there. Shout out to Kofi. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're staying warm these last couple of days in New York, man. God damn. It's been cold out here, boy. And what made it worse, we had that snowstorm that, for some reason, to me, this year in New York, they didn't handle the snowstorm well. Was it like that in where you are, Matron? Was it like, did you guys have a snowstorm as well? Shout out to the Matron who's also out there, by the way. Make sure you guys are supporting the Matron. More on that later. You know the deal. I like to come on here and let you guys know what we have in store for you tonight. We got 5 topics. We'll be here until 11 p.m. thereabouts. One of the topics we're going to talk about is, as you can tell from the thumbnail of the episode, IShowSpeed witnessed some African science the other day. We got to talk about that. Is it the case that young people are finally pushing back against celebrity worship and sellouts? If it's true, you'd love to see it. We're gonna. This should be a fun one. I hope a good number of you come out tonight, not just in the chat but on the panel. Who's bigger, Michael Jackson or Bob Marley? Now, there's different ways to approach that question, but I think it's an interesting question for one particular way anyway. We're going to talk about the feasibility of whether or not blacks can, Africans can rid themselves of the invaders in North Africa. We're going to also assess the feasibility. What was this topic again? Damn, I forgot already. Give me a second. This topic was, separating North Africa is another topic as well. Kind of, sort of. I could do better with how I describe that, but that's the gist of it. Andy McPhail says, peace, everybody. Good to see Anthony. I've been seeing Anthony on them YouTube streets with forecasts and considering them. Good to see you here tonight. So those are the topics for tonight. If you haven't already, hit the like button, share the show, call a friend on the phone and tell them to come through, check out the episode. Matron says, yes, they kept shutting down the schools and closing the roads. Interesting. For some reason, I feel like that's been a common complaint this winter storm that just passed in different places, that they didn't really do a good job of cleaning up, so to speak. But with that said, man, let's start the show officially. And on the other side, I'll drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as introduce any and all of my panelists. So please, please, please stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Goku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-Black perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Hey, yes, indeed. Before we go any further, just a reminder, support the matron's efforts on her channel. Go to our matron. That's the Revolutionary Matron. Go to our matron's YouTube channels. Subscribe if you haven't already. Tune into her readings. Make sure to do that and support her on her channel, her Cash App, etc. Okay. Also, check out Forecast Radio. Also, support him too, man. Support Forecast. Forecast is on regularly on these YouTube streets, so make sure to go over and support him. Support the sister Cassandra Cheek, who's often on his platform as well. And support Brother Bakari. Let's try to get him back to live streaming when the time is right for him. But let's encourage him all the same. And last but not least, let's support Kofi, the Black critic. Kofi in the chat said, yes, driving is horrible. Absolutely. Driving is horrible. Parking is the worst. It's crazy out there in these Brooklyn streets, man. Provide triggers for Evolution is out there saying greetings. So greetings to that sister. Thanks for coming through. In the meantime, I got two panelists with me so far. Let me introduce them. First will be Kofi, the Black critic. How are you this week?
I'm doing good, staying warm, like you said, out here in BK. It's horrible. They didn't do a good job with the streets. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. Like they didn't plow or salt anything, and they sent everybody back to work the next day. And I was like, what? So yeah, but besides that, I'm good.
Yeah, thanks for coming through. And you're right. They send everyone back to work first thing in the morning. The streets were horrible. Sidewalks were bad. Driving was the worst. In fact, I didn't even drive this week because of how bad it is out there.
So you one of them cars that's still buried under ice now. It's not snow no more. It's ice.
Luckily for me, I left my car at work, and how my work is set up, I could park under the building. So I'm good. My car is looking pretty and smiling in the parking lot right now. But yeah, it was an interesting week, man. But with that said, let's welcome in our brother Black Steel. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing great, trying to keep warm like you guys. Maybe not to the same extent, but they did say there was some snow flurries a few miles north of here in the Sunshine State. So, I mean, it might as well be the end of the world for us.
Yeah, I saw a video with actual snow in Florida. I don't know. I didn't catch what part of Florida, but there was actual snow. So that's pretty interesting.
Maybe like Jacksonville, further north, like Jacksonville. It gets cold up there.
Yeah, probably something like that.
It's snowing in Tallahassee right now, yeah.
Oh, so
wow.
Yeah, it's snowing.
Interesting. Man, thank you guys for coming through this week, Black Steel, before I start the show, I have to get. Now, I think I have your email. I meant to ask you if you wanted to, because sometimes I want to at you on these shorts, but the at is your name. You know what I mean? So I don't want to at your name. So I don't know if you have another YouTube channel, but we'll talk about it. But I have this idea for a segment on the show. I was gonna run by you to see if you would host it. It's a small segment, but I think you'd be perfect for it. Buana's in the chat saying he'll be up in a minute. Give him 10 minutes. Cool. Real Black Gentleman, RBG is out there saying Grace is fine. Yeah, RBG, man, your presence was well noted the last time you were on, man. Good stuff from RBG, as per usual. Some people don't get RBG, but RBG is he's on it. He's on it. With that said, man, let's get right into it. Let me drop Shoot the Breeze, topic number 1 tonight. By the way, there's a poll up. Please put up please respond to that poll. I don't know if you guys have been on Twitter as of late, particularly the last 24 hours. And notice, interestingly, there's a knock going out against Pan-Africanists, particularly Patrice Lumumba, claiming that he's a PDF file. And
I saw that. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that someone starts that up when the Epstein files just dropped. Oh, some of the Epstein files just dropped. Interesting. But let's get into it, man. Should be topic number 1 says, we just have to talk about this. What is this? Let me share the attachment that came along with this and make sure you guys can see my screen. So this is the attachment that came along with this. Should it be topic number 1? It's from Asaki GRN, I guess. It says, IShowSpeed experienced African traditional science for the first time in Benin. He saw masquerades moving and was shocked when he realized there was no one inside. He even called it a robot. Let's watch the attachment that came with it.
What the heck? Nobody's inside me? Bro, I'm trying to see though. Can I see inside? I want to see inside. I want to see inside. Nobody said. But what the heck? Wait, how is this moving? How is he moving? Wait, how they moving? Are these robots?
But there's no one in it. There's spirits.
They're spirits? What the hell? Oh my gosh! What the? Yo! How is it moving like that? Oh no, buddies! What is this one doing? Oh, how is he moving? Bro, he.
Interesting video. Let me make sure that there's not more to it. Someone posted underneath, I don't understand how we were colonized if we can do stuff like that with the Eddie Murphy shark meme. Someone else says, Africa keeps reminding the world that not all knowledge comes from the laboratories. There's a video, I guess, underneath that, but we'll just focus on the video that we watched. I'll be honest with you guys. IShowSpeed is not in my I'm not the age group for IShowSpeed. When I first saw IShowSpeed some years ago, he was doing kind of gimmicky, kind of, how do I want to put this? But eyes bucking type stuff to me when I first saw him. But in recent years, he's been doing some interesting things, man. This kid is really athletic. This kid has beaten like professional runners and stuff, and has emulated on the spot, at least from what we're told and we see, has emulated on the spot things like gymnasts have been doing. So I like that. But in particular, I like this move he made, this tour he made through Africa. And I haven't watched every bit of it, but what I've seen was pretty good. Interestingly enough, IShowSpeed kind of revealed, his father kind of revealed that he has tether lineage. I don't know if you guys caught that. I wonder if that will do anything, harm or good, for his content and how many people subscribe and view his stuff. But his Africa trip was pretty good. And we're going to talk about a couple things concerning that tonight. Right now, we're talking about the African science that he witnessed. Black Steel, what say you to what you just saw?
I mean, I can't really explain how that works. I mean, I would like to know as well. How did that happen? How were those moving? They say it's spirits. I'm inclined to believe them. So I've seen these pictures before. I've always been curious as to how these things were invented and whatnot. If they say it's spirits, then I'm inclined to believe them. Why I have no reason to doubt them. I'm happy for Speed to see that. I think it's important that we get in touch with African spirituality. Don't demonize it. The way he was acting, I get it. He's new to this whole situation. He was like, "What? How is that? How was that moving?" It's almost like he was almost frightened by it, which I could understand. If you don't grow up in a society that values African spirituality, you're going to see something like that, and it's going to freak you out. So, otherwise, I think it was amazing. I want to know how they do it too. Honestly, I'm confused as well. I want to know the trade secret personally, but that was very interesting. I've been seeing some of his tour. I think it's good that he's reaching out to the family back in the motherland, building real connections. He's showing a very positive side of Africa, and I think his tour is doing some good. I think.
Black Seal, did you happen to see that when he was I guess he was in Liberia. He was Liberia or Sierra Leone. I think it was Liberia. Did you see that some Africans came up to him and said, "Yo, we're Watkins. We're from..."
It was Liberia.
What? Say he's from...
It was in Liberia.
Cleveland or something like that. It was Liberia.
Yeah, okay. He found from Watkins in Liberia.
Where you're from. Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting that happened as well. And then, of course, there'll be the haters, the doubters, etc. But I thought that was very positive. Junie Zone in the chat. I haven't seen you in a minute, Junie Zone. He says, "Was that fake or real?" As far as we can tell, it was real. And that's how we should take it. That's how we should take it. Kofi, we should talk about this. What should we say about it?
I'm like with Black Steel. I don't know. It's interesting. It shows you the infamy and the spiritual system and the science power of Black people, of African people, and it's just something that is like unexplained. It's just interesting. It reminds me of the doggone people, right? The doggone people and if anyone know about the doggone people, I don't know if it's still on YouTube. It's if you guys are trackies, you know who Leonard Nimoy is. He was the narrator talking about the doggone and about how Sirius B basically being a star, right? But the doggone people know that was a binary star. Binary star meaning it was two stars. But when you look at it with the naked eye, it looks like one star. It was a star in a constellation. Oh, I forgot the name of the constellation, but they told them the white people went back to the observatory, point the telescope there, and it was like, okay, it's a star, but it's one. When they further analyzed it, it was two stars. Like, how do these Negroes in Africa, with their naked eye, know that this star that you need a telescope to see is two stars, Sirius A and Sirius B, right? That there's a lot that we have. So everyone know our brother that passed a while ago, on Dr. Recorder Rashidi. He spoke about this. And basically, if you go further back in time during the dissolvement of Kemet, right, you had a lot of the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians left. They say a lot of them went to West Africa, right? So it's a lot of spiritual systems. So they're coming from they're coming to West Africa with centuries and centuries of knowledge of how the stars work and constellation work. And if anyone gets into, like, I have books from Mawata Ashby and other people that study on Kemet, talks about Egyptian magic and things like that, you know, because the Egyptians had magicians. That's Europeans had the same thing, but they got it from us. They had magicians, you know, and they did things that was just astounding. So this just points to infamy, a level of spirituality that we just don't know. And usually the same people, the doggone, name of this book, I gotta get in my library and get it. Something with Foxfire, something with the Fox. Anyway, is this French archaeologist went into study the doggone people to see how they know that. It's a priesthood. They're not just going to tell you that. They're not just going to tell you that. So it's something that's passed on by generation by shamans and priests that are in contact and know how to make this work. They're not going to tell them nothing. They're not even going to tell their own people nothing. You got to go through a rites of passage and everything to be a part of that, to carry on that tradition. So this is something I find very interesting, and I really push all African people to, look, really like study this, because I'm very, very curious to know.
Kofi, I don't know if I missed you saying it, but you know where the Dogon people, where the priests and stuff come from, right?
Well, that's what I said. From my understanding, they probably came from the north. They probably came from Kemet.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I'm sorry I missed that. I blanked for a second, but I have this book. Like you, I need to go and pull the name. I have these two books on the Dogon science, and it's very interesting, man. They were right not to tell these white folks what they knew like that. Some people claim that the Frenchmen made it up, but it's not true. And I'm going to say something wild here without going into it any further. I'm convinced the so-called Egyptians, the Kemeticians, I'm convinced they have electricity.
Yeah, they do. It's called the Baghdad. They call it the Baghdad light bulb, but it's something that they made that because they say down deep when you go into the catacombs in Kemet, they have these things like, okay, and they figured out it was just like like candles or whatever, but they say that deep is not enough oxygen for for the candles to stay lit. So how did they do it? And they found where, again, science, big science they have, where they put a couple chemicals that they had. I don't know the name of the exact chemicals they had. They put it together and it gave light. It's called the Baghdad battery.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm convinced because knowing what we know about these white folks now, we know that they take ideas, they don't credit the the original people who came up with it. I suspect that we had that there, and these guys just pretend like we don't. There was something that recently came up. Yeah, like even like the subway cars. Great House on Twitter did a good job with this too. I always remember this tweet. Like the subway cars in America and all over the world, actually, they are certain. The wheels are certain, or the tracks are a certain amount of feet apart. I think it's 8 feet something, and they got that from the chariot. The distance and length between chariot wheels are the Kemet. I find that so interesting, but they won't tell you that. They went back and studied, well, what was the chariot length here? And why were these chariots so good in warfare and transportation and all that kind of stuff? And they applied that to their shit. They'll never tell you that. But with that said, man, we got a couple more panelists who joined us here tonight. First one is RBG, Real Black Gentleman. How are you this week?
I'm good, Koku. How about you?
I'm great, man. You know where the planet, you know what region of the galaxy the stars are in. Tell us about it.
Well, I want to talk about the Dogon and this technology, right? Well, while we on this technology kick, here's the thing, right? Let me just break it down to you. Okay. You might not be able to see Sirius B with the naked eye, right? But let's say you had a telescope, right? You would probably see it. But you would also, what's a telescope, right? It's a lens. How do you make a lens? You need sand. What is Kemet surrounded by? Sand. Okay, let's say you have sand, you have electricity. You can make a lens. Now here's the more kicker stuff, right? The atmosphere in the desert is incredibly clear, plus no pollution like in modern times, no haze, right? And eyesight is excellent if you're a professional astronomer. So you're a professional astronomer with excellent eyesight. You have a lens. You're looking at Sirius. You're doing it all night, every night, because that's your job. What do you see with your excellent eyesight? Oh, you see another star. It's not that complicated. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's a lens? It's sand. What's in Africa? Sand. What? You know what I'm saying? Even if you know what I'm saying? That right there, and it probably is a trade secret. You wouldn't need an incredibly big lens, just something you could hold in between two fingers. Oh yeah, I absolutely believe that our people saw things. You know what I'm saying? That much I will say. I can break it down. It's not too hard to make a lens if you have sand. Hell, you can have natural crystals that act as lens. You can scout out rocks. You know what I'm saying? And if you do have electricity, you can make a fire. You can really start. You can make. Didn't John Henry Clark say they had windows? If you have windows, you have window panes. You have glass. Sand makes glass, right? Okay, that's one way, and especially if you have power. Oh, geez. I mean, it's a wrap. As far as this, you know, what I think is some wires in there, but that's not for me to know. You know what I'm saying? If it's spirits, it's spirits. Let our people, you know what I'm saying, have our secrets. You know what I'm saying? Let our people, you know what I'm saying, have our ways about it. You know what I'm saying? I like to see that. I like to see very like it's vibrant to see that. You know what I'm saying? It's you know, you don't to understand that our people can do such things. You know what I'm saying? I like it. I've seen some things in Africa where it's in Nigeria in particular where it's like, you know, it seemed like a mannequin, but that you know what I'm saying, takes some hydraulics. You know what I'm saying? Probably got, you know what I'm saying? I think it's wires, but that's for me. That's for them to know and me to find out. You know what I'm saying? Now, if he would have gone up there and tried to like finagle it, they probably would have like grabbed them up and yoked them on the ground like, hey, don't touch that. Don't touch that. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's quite possible, but I think that's also the ingenuity of it. Like the fact that you couldn't, and they've been doing this for a long time. I think that's the ingenuity of it. You can't tell. I was talking to Brother Bakari earlier today, and I was talking about how, this white man, a part of his warfare is this mysticism, this, gas them up, and Joe said that, and we'll call it the occultism and stuff like that. But these guys did things like that to Africans when to Western Africans who had forgotten or what have you. But they did stuff like that. They'll come shoot an African with a gun, kill him, let all the people watch this dead person, and then pull a similar looking gun, but it's a cap gun, it's a little firecracker gun, and they'll shoot a white guy and the guy lives. And of course, we didn't know no better. We like, wow, that science is strong. So it's time for us to embrace some of our science. Our science is strong too. If you can't explain this, you have to chalk that up to our spirituality. Buana, were you able to see the video?
The last part of it, but I guess you just though. I guess you just. Shout out to all the good brothers on the panel. I hope all of y'all are well, and I hope all your families are well. Let me just start saying this. Yeah. My granddad was a big believer in WWF wrestling. He used to love wrestling, Dusty Rhodes and all those crew. And you couldn't tell my grandfather when he was alive that wrestling wasn't real. You couldn't tell him that. And I feel like I have a biologist on the panel. I got a scientific mind in the mind of Kofi on the panel. I got a senior teacher. And it seemed like, by the way, RBG, I really appreciated your breakdown on how you reasoned through what was going on. I really appreciate that, bro. I embrace that. But we have some scientific minds on the panel. You all believe in African magic. Excuse me. Let me say this. I am a big believer in. I used to like to watch David Blaine. David Blaine was, well, I think y'all know who David Blaine is, a famous magician. But, and I used to watch his magic tricks, and I used to say, how did he do that? Until I started watching YouTube, and they started explaining the magic tricks. It's like unmasking magicians' tricks and things like that. When you see how the magic trick works, maybe it takes away the mystery out of it, but it's not spirits, man. It's not spirits. I'm closer to RBG. It's wires. It's they using the technology that they have to rig these things that make the human eye make it seem like spirits working. Come on, fellas, man. Y'all know better than that. It's just not magic, man. It's not even African magic. It's just something that we don't know how the magic trick actually works because it's not observable to us right now. But we don't believe how. Well, I don't believe it's African spirits. Let me put it like that. I think it's the way that they work in it and rigging it, maybe wires, small wires, things like that, as giving it the appearance of something that is actually not. Penn and Teller have many magicians on their show, and they do different magic tricks. And if you watch it, you would really think that these guys have something that's beyond the physical realm, but I don't agree with that. It's the way that they doing it, and when you watch like magic tricks unmasked, you realize it's just a trick. It's a trick, So that's why I am with it.
But Buana, I can't let you do that too tough. I'll say this: in the European magic that you're talking about, there's usually a bait and a switch that, if you watch it enough times, which is why they try not to televise these things too tough, because if you watch it enough times, you'll see it. There's a black guy who does some shit on YouTube and stuff. People might call him like a Jones, like a vagrant or something like that, but he does these tricks in front of people in a diner, and the people can't figure it out. Yeah, that type of thing has the bait and switch to it. But I'll ask you, since you've watched a lot of magic stuff, where's the bait and switch here?
I don't. I could, but how you could ask me that? I don't know how the magic trick actually works. These guys probably have a way of doing it. But if okay, I'm not in that place. But as RBG said, if you was to go up close to those fellas and try to grab something, they'll tell you, say, oh, whoa, wait a minute. This trick only works from this distance. My thing is, the magic trick I want to see my brothers do in Africa is, Paul B has been in power for more than 40 years. He's 90 years old, running as president, and Museveni is just won another election in Uganda. My magic trick to them is get them out of office. How about that? Let's try it out.
Yeah, that magic trick might probably entails them embracing the African spirituality. Does Kofi want to add something?
Yeah, now me, y'all know I'm from Guyana, right? But I was not raised in Guyana. Everybody that I talked to that was raised, if my friends from Jamaica, St. Kitts, and wherever, they always got some jumbie story to tell you about something that they can't explain in the spiritual realm. I'm not talking seeing Jesus from a cloud or the stairway to heaven like in the Bible. No, I'm talking about some Obia type of thing. And I'll have my Guyanese friend that grew up in Guyana and my Jamaican friend grow up in Jamaica, and they just have these Obia stories. And I'm just sitting there like, what? And it's like, bro, I can't explain it. I know it doesn't make sense, but I see this fly. I see this person did this and this thing with this and that and that. And I'm like, what? And everybody has a story. So I'm going to move the conversation a little bit. If you don't believe it, Koku, you must have an uncle, a grandmother, or somebody that said that witnessed something supernatural. Because it's always old people that's like our great grandparents' age. Even in America, you may hear something every now and again. Black Americans will have some story, and they say, "Oh, that's just an old wives' tale." Or is it just me and my friends?
No, so Kofi, what I've heard some people say is they're from Africa. They are Indians because their grandmother told them so. We didn't come from Africa. We are natives to this land. Why? Because my grandmama said so. That's the argument you're giving me right now. You cannot tell, brother, that people on the island. No,
I'm talking about everyone. People who witnessed it, not hearsay. People that say I seen this thing happen.
Yeah, but you're talking about unscientific men witnessing something. Of course, they're not going to be able to explain it in the scientific way. They island people. They know about fishing and drinking rum, and it's when they see things that's beyond their understanding, because they don't understand. Many of them don't understand the scientific world and how that works. So I expect them to believe in spiritual things when you can't explain it in a scientific way. I expect that. You should, and you should too. You should know better. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I want to get my boys them to come on, and they'll explain it. I'm gonna get them to come on.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't lose touch with our roots in that way, because another group tells us, only believe what you see. Right. Meanwhile, they're practicing all kind of sleight of hand and all kind of shit, right? But I know, for example, what Kofi is talking about. I just was talking to an aunt of mine when I was home the other day, and she's not African descent or anything. She surprised me when she told me when she was a child, she used to see dead people. She used to tell my grandmother, her mother, that she saw so and such walk the yard and this, that, and the other. That stuff happens. We might, and it's funny because we're Boana people from them. People believe heavily in the spirit world, man.
Big time.
Has anybody here seen that show, Welcome to Derry, the Pennywise show?
Yes.
So one of the characters on there, that was his ability. He could see dead people. He's actually a character from one of Stephen King's books, but in the show, he has his ability, but he was able to control it. But then in dealing with the Pennywise creature, his ability gets unlocked. So now he not only can he see them, but the dead know they can see him, and they're trying to get his attention. So I just thought it was an interesting tidbit. They put that in the show.
Black Steel.
Just real quick before I lose that thought, Buana, I think that character Halloran, who's also in the Shining movie, I think they should do a show just about that character. But that's just me.
Me too.
Go ahead, Buana.
Yeah, Black Steel. So I watch these programs too, where people see dead people and things like that, right? That dead Civil War ghosts come back to life or whatever. I'm asking myself a question. Or all the torture and mayhem that happened to our ancestors, whether it's in the Caribbean or even in South America, how many white people live on these plantations, these old plantations? I would expect them old slaves to come back and just be wearing their asses out all night long, just hiking them every night. I don't hear stories like that. Why come I never hit? Why don't I hear stories like that? Like this, like a slave they tortured and maimed and cut off his foot, just come back and just wear out the master's great grandchildren. I don't hear them kind of stories, you know.
Maybe they don't tell you that. First of all, maybe that's not how it works. But maybe the people who receive that reckoning, they don't tell you that, so your black ass don't know. Hey, you know your ancestors can come back and dish out some cut ass here. Maybe they don't tell you.
Maybe.
We got to be open to. Here's what I've learned through doing Shoot the Breeze, especially, and I've come to this conclusion, man. I rather talk about what my ancestors, my people, talked about, than to talk about what other people's people was talking about. I really don't want to talk about no story involving Mary and Joseph and all this old shit. I rather talk about here's some stories. This is why the father of Black History Week, which became Black History Month, I can't think of his name right now, but
Carter G. Woodson.
Carter G. Woodson. He writes that African children's story. That's a great book that we overlook completely. And that book, you could probably buy it for $3. That is not an expensive book, but just a great source of connecting us to the stories, the ideas, and things that our people talk about. Instead, we talk about the ideas that other people talk about, which is indicative of that Patrice Lumumba discourse going on Twitter, by the way. Is there any other thoughts on this showing from IShowSpeed?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out for him from doing the tour. You know what I'm saying? I saw some posts on it. I haven't really paid attention. I did see how he did get some abuse up north. I did see that. But you know what I'm saying? Please, I mean, it's glorious to see. You know what I'm saying? More of it. I want more of it. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thanks for that. In the chat, the matron says African spiritual tech is very different from Western spiritual tech. We are taught to demonize the fetishes of Africa when, in fact, African technology is superior and our way to freedom. Absolutely, I agree with that, matron.
Oh, can I add one more thing? With the Dogon. Like the thing is, like, just we got to keep in mind that our eyes are trash. You know what I'm saying? Just with these screens and all that. Our people's eyes 4,000 years ago were excellent. They could see the tits on a tick. I'm telling you, from the 20 feet away. You have to train your eyes and to have excellent vision because Sirius is like the brightest star in the sky, and any other source of light that would be surrounding it would basically be drowned out by it unless your eyes can resolve it. And I mean, you have to have like 20 like half vision. I'm talking about like the greatest eyes on earth, you know, human eyes, you know what I'm saying? Just to give you the idea that it can be done. And I'm saying if you have a lens, it makes it that much easier. But you also have to have excellent eyes. Just go back to how just living in a world without, you know, that's more natural And I mean, basically, the night sky was the entertainment of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, your job as an astronomer. I'm going to keep looking at these stars. I'm sure someone looked at Sirius 100 times and didn't look at it until the other Sirius B was in the right spot of the orbit, which you could actually see it. A clear night, and they saw it. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about astronomy, it takes more than one person to see it. So you got to hand that lens to someone else and say, do you see what I see? And if, you know what I'm saying, give that to a third person. Yo, there's another star out there, and that's how it started. That's all I got. That's all I got to say.
I'm not sure if that's how Sirius B was discovered by modern astronomy, because you can't see with the naked eye, no matter how sharp you are. You know how.
I had mentioned the lens. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a
lens.
I
thought you meant without the lens. Oh
no, you got to have a lens, but your eyes still have to be. I mean, even with let's be honest. Like, I mean, nowadays you can refine things, just the way of measurement. Just the nature of the just collective advancement of things. I'm not saying there are people can't make a lens, but your eyes still have to be excellent to even begin to resolve what you see in that lens.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, from what I've known, it was a star that was faint, but you can see with your eyes if you really, fixate on it. And you were right about in Kemet, where, the skies was clear. There's not a lot of rain there, so it's always clear. There's not a lot of haze and stuff like that. That's what makes them masteries of astronomy and astrology, if you like it or love it. But yeah, that particular star in question is so faint you could barely see it, let alone that is a binary star. So when Europeans go into Africa and they study quote unquote primitive practices and what they're doing, they're like, oh my God. And they don't necessarily hide these things, but they don't highlight it. Right. So the typical tropes about Africans being primitive, and I kind of have no problem with the word primitive. When I was coming into consciousness, I'm not a Nuwapian or whatever, but I took the meat and spit out the bones, and I had trouble with certain words. I got offended when someone says primitive, and my one of my homeboys, he's listening right now, and he really taught me about the power of learning of words. Once you understand words, no one can lie to you, because words have a history when you understand the etymology of words. So my Nuwapian brother was like, what's wrong with being primitive? I was like, oh, because you're backwards and you're this. He's like, whoa. What is the root word of primitive? What are some synonyms to the word primitive? I'm like, prime. Okay, what does prime mean? First. Okay, we were the first. What's wrong with that? And he just blew. I was like, wow. He just blew my mind. He said, don't let people take something that is valuable and turn into something nasty because they know you're the first to do something. There's nothing wrong with being the first to do something. So when they say primitive, don't think that as something that's a slight. You were the first to do it, and they still can't figure it out. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
I like what Sister Cheryl said in chat. Shout out to Sister Cheryl, Afro Native World, Trigger Happy 262 Plus, who joined us in the chat. Sister Cheryl says science couldn't explain 1804. I'll leave that as the last comment. I'll leave that as the last comment to that prompt. So let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2, man. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says, are young people finally pushing back against celebrity worship and sellouts? You'll love to see it. So this came with an attachment. Let me see if it will share with you guys. Okay, so that's the first attachment it comes with. I think it came with 2. Yeah, it came with 2. So this is the first one. This is from Kirko. It says NBA Youngboy explains his Make America Slime Again album title. He says, follow whatever Trump applying in every way, enforce whatever Trump's applying. That's it. So let's watch the short video before I show the next attachment.
The message, Make America Slime Again. Like, what does that title mean to you?
And then follow whatever Trump applying.
follow whatever Trump applying.
Yeah.
What in what way? Like
in every way.
Well, Trump pardoned you, got you off house arrest.
I don't know nothing about that.
What you mean? Did you ever speak to him about, like, did you ever have a...
No, nothing about that.
Right. Okay. But the album's name, Make America Islam Again. The tour is named Make America Islam Again.
It was, the name was like, it's just to enforce whatever Trump applying. That's it.
Have you ever met Trump?
Why do you keep that?
Because you got me thinking right now, YB. Like, okay, all right, fair. But we at Slime Cry now.
That interview oddly reminds me of a Lil Wayne interview.
Message Make America Slime
from a few years ago. Just check and see if there's any other attachment to this tweet. Someone tweeted and said, "This your favorite rapper with this face on," which is kind of funny. But like I said, this came with 2 attachments. Let me make sure I got the next one lined up. This came with 2 attachments. The second attachment is also to Twitter. It says it's from Raindrops Media. It says, after the recent trend of many rappers co-signing Trump, woman says she's done listening to NBA YoungBoy. She says she would have stayed on house arrest after he told his viewers to follow Trump's lead. She added, "They don't give a fuck about us. I don't know why we're putting money in their pockets." Let's listen to this from the lady.
And the way that YoungBoy got his ass on an interview with his slow ass, and I love YoungBoy, but he got me messed up. So yes, he's slow. I'm not supporting anymore. Like you did what you had to do, YoungBoy. I really do appreciate you for making my teen years fun in my 20s, but I'm done. This was my last straw with these black celebrities. I'm done with y'all. Y'all are some fucking sellouts. Some sellouts. Y'all will do anything for the white man's money. Anything for some change. All good money ain't good money. Y'all will do anything. Y'all will literally harm the community. Put yourself first. I don't know why we even support these people, y'all, anymore. They don't give a fuck about us. I don't know why we are putting money in their pockets. This nigga went on a fucking platform telling, I know most of the majority of the audience, like, they know who to fucking target, bro. Majority of the audience is young black men. You're telling young black men to apply Trump's ideologies and shit. What the fuck, bro? This shit is sad. This shit is sad, bro. I don't even know why I even continue to even listen to these rappers anymore. Y'all are all some fucking sellouts. Y'all are coons. Just some coons. We don't need to put, y'all, I'm so serious. We don't need to put money in these people's pockets anymore. These black people who constantly let us down and let us know they are not for us. They are for the white people. They don't care about us. They do not. And I'm not going to lie, watching that video of YoungBoy being slow as hell, you're 26, you're literally my age, being slow as fuck on drugs. Like, these are not even the people we need to even be following anymore. Shit, your ass even look drugged out on the damn interview, and then you telling people to fucking listen to Trump. Are you serious? Nicki Minaj already canceled in my book. I'm ready. I'm done with all these black celebrities because y'all show us every day y'all don't care about us. Y'all are some sellouts. Stop putting money in these people's pockets. They need to learn some shit. They need to learn lessons. YoungBoy, you were better off just being on house arrest, man. You didn't have to do that shit. Now look at your ass. You about to lose some fucking fans, and I'm one of them.
Very interesting video. We need to get to her.
And the way that
ASAP
YoungBoy
to offer a little bit of more political education. Let me see what this attachment is talking about here as well.
These sellout coon rappers are one of the reasons why a lot of black folks don't trust these rich black celebrities, because they'll do anything to get in with these rich, wealthy white crowds. like Nicki Minaj, 50 Cent. It's over. These sellout coon rappers are one of the reasons.
See them going under the label of liberals. There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox, and a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to, but the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling. You take him for a friend.
So the last video I played was a response. I thought it was a quote of Malcolm warning black folks not to listen to celebrities, not to follow celebrities. But I realize now that they were trying to counter the idea of Trump, which I see a lot of black folks doing, countering this idea of what Trump is doing with some of the same shit that, say, an Obama did or Biden or whoever, like immigration, for example. So that's what that last video was. But at least we got those two videos that talked about the youth not really rocking with some of the celebrities that they're being, shown, like NBA Youngboy and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, that NBA Youngboy video reminded me a lot of Lil Wayne video where this Negro was sitting there, eyes bucking, talking about me. I don't see color. I don't see police brutality and all this kind of stuff, man. Real wild stuff, man. But let me throw it to my panelists before I yap a little too much. I see your comments in the chat. I'm going to read them out in a second. Shout out to Forecast, who's with us, Brother Bakari, who's with us, and like I said, Afro Native World and Sister Cheryl. Kofi, what are your thoughts on what you saw from these young folks?
The word celebrity means to celebrate. So I don't know any, look, we're about the same age. I don't know any rapper of note nowadays to celebrate. I'm coming from the era of Public Enemy with Chuck D, Sister Soldier, X-Clan. You know, people within their lyrics and their raps were real Pan-Africans, were really about unity, calling out the government, calling out corruption. Those people, or you celebrate, those are people who stood with the Nation of Islam on Khalid Muhammad. Those were people that you're able to celebrate. There's no rappers around right now that, that I would consider a real celebrity that I need to celebrate. I just don't care about them at all like that. But I mean, I'm glad to see that the young people are getting wise to the game, getting wise to the bait and switch. Nicki Minaj, saying she had a pedo brother. She was here undocumented, and I saw like, okay, obviously she wants to get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? And Dr. Umar said something that that rings a bell right now. He was on the Breakfast Club, and he says you gotta know the difference between a Negro and a coon. He says a Negro, doesn't know any better. He doesn't know any better. He's just going to status quo. He thinks Jesus is white. He just thinks white people are better. A coon knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they're doing it because it only benefits them. It doesn't matter if the other people get thrown under the bus as long as they get what they want. So people like Nicki Minaj, NBA Youngboy, and all these people, they're straight up coons because we know they know better. Now, a Negro to me would be Kanye West. Lord for the apology to black people. Kanye West, there's a lot wrong with him right now. You know what I'm saying? So to me, Kanye West is more of a Negro than a coon. So, but I'm glad that we have hopefully this is representative of a significant of young people who are into rap music and these celebrities right now, just saying like, hey, oh wow, I see your game. This is horrible. You're undermining us. Okay, it's one thing to just want to be a rapper. It's not like in the 60s. Saying here in America or in the 80s here in America, you got celebrities, but saying you have Harry Belafonte as part of the civil rights movement. You had a lot of blacks like on Paul Robeson. You had a lot of musicians. Billie Holiday. You have a lot of very, very noteworthy black musicians and actors who was like, you know what? I'm gonna be involved politically. I have a voice now. So because I have a voice, let my voice be the voice representative of my people. We're not our ancestors. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But in this regard, when it comes to celebrities, we're not our ancestors at all. One thing I'll say before going. So the whole thing with Malcolm X saying that, I understand that, but I kind of, when people use Malcolm X and they use his quotes and things like that, you have to understand what Malcolm are we talking about. Are we talking about Malcolm during the time when he was Elijah Muhammad, or are we talking about the Malcolm when he left the Nation of Islam? So in this case, when he's talking about the liberals, we're talking about before the Southern strategy, right? And when it comes to politics, when I go back to Guyana, or when you go to Barbados, or you go back to Jamaica or whatever, we could be conservative. Conservative means to conserve. You cannot be a black person in America, right, and be conservative. Conserve in what? You're conserving the American ideology and the way of life, right? So for you to be if you're not a white, straight Christian man, it makes no sense for you to be freaking conservative. That's why we have amendments. That's why we have bills and stuff like that. Why? Because it's only for those people and those people alone. So when I hear people, black people and African people say, and they're in America and they're talking about American politics and say, well, I am a conservative. Okay, you're just a coon ass nigga then. What are you conserving? You cannot take your ideas and principles from your homeland and say, well, I can apply it here. That's why, and I've said this many a time, that's why you have to understand what is the job of the United States. Muhammad Ali had an interview and said, what would you do? I think it was about the Vietnam War. What would you do? Would you ever want to be the president of the United States? And Muhammad Ali said, no, I don't want to be the president of the United States. I don't want that. I don't want that job, because he understands what the job entails. It doesn't matter who you put as president. I don't care if they triple black. I don't care if they're checkered, polka dot, lily white, or midnight. The job remains the same. And it's pretty much it. Good topic.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Kofi. Let me hit the chat real quick, because I didn't hit the chat as well last time. Again, Brother Bakari says, peace and Black African power, Black African family. Shout out to you. Cheryl earlier asked if he said slum or Islam. He said slime. That was the title of his album. Shout out to Forecast, who shouting at me, the panel, and the chat. Forecast says they are on Nicki Minaj's neck too. Yeah, a lot of people mentioned she was undocumented, but that's a long time ago. I don't know why she's doing what she's doing now. Sister Cheryl believes her boyfriend or husband or whatever got caught up with some law stuff, and that's why she's selling out. We'll see. The matron says, I think that young people are so deprived of resources that they cannot respect people that can be bought. They understand that if you can be bought, then you can be sold and are still a slave. That's a very interesting comment. I like that comment. That's something to look into. Is there a shift in thinking because things are so bad out now in terms of resources for young black people? That's very interesting. Afro-Native World says entertainers with political miseducation miss the greats like Muhammad Ali. When you mentioned Muhammad Ali in the chat earlier, when I saw this comment earlier, it made me think of TK Carson. Shout out to TK Carson. I should have shouted him out a week or two ago, but he passed away. He was a comedian, popular on TV when I was a kid. And one of the things I remember from him is doing this spot-on Muhammad Ali impression. So RIP to that brother. Sister Cheryl says, it's amazing how it takes Trump to be in office for y'all to even give a damn. Because if this was Obama, it would be different. It would be a different story. Afro-Native World says Obama got too many passes. He says Obama is under that liberal category too, by the way. The Forecast Radio says back then hip-hop with a message and knowledge and black power. I feel like the old man now talking about they don't make music like they did back in the day. He was referring to the artist Kofi was listing off. I saw another comment that I thought was a good one, but I'll have to come back to it. Oh yes, Sister Cheryl says, yeah, that conservatism only really makes sense if you're a white Christian woman. With that said, man, Buana, what say you to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2?
Me personally, I'm sorry that the young people having an opportunity to meet their heroes. They usually say, never meet your heroes, because your heroes, when you get close to them, you'll see a lot of the cracks and flaws, what you don't necessarily see from afar. You could listen to an album or a music, but you have to remember it's art. It's just music. And sometimes it is far from the reality of the artists themselves. Very, very far. I used to be a big Buju Banton fan, huge Buju Banton fan, and sometimes when I hear Buju Banton talk, nowadays, I kind of like what the hell is wrong with this guy? He is very, very far from a lot of his songs. Very, very far. And it'll disappoint you. It'll really disappoint you. And I'm really sorry that these people who idolize these human beings are getting the dose of how these people really think and feel, especially under this political climate. I'm sorry that they're getting disappointed, but they are wise enough to separate the truth from the lie. Kofi was saying earlier that Kanye West put out an apology, an apology in a Wall Street Journal, apologizing to the Jewish community and secondarily now to the Black community for the things he would have said, and he blamed it on mental health. And I'm wondering, okay, so when you go crazy, you become a white nationalist? I just go crazy and start spewing white supremacist rhetoric. It's confusing to me. But like I say, I think that is sometimes you should never meet your idols or people who you may have idolized, or people who you looked up to, because they will really disappoint you. And you have to get your own voice, and you have to get your own purpose, and don't worry about what other people think. These entertainers, you are far from them. You don't know who these people actually are. Some of these people are degenerates, drug dealers, cokeheads, have convictions where they're trying to get out of. You don't know them personally, so don't hatch your eggs in those kind of baskets. You have to look at yourself, maybe people close to you within your community, people who you can actually see on a day-to-day basis in terms of what they're doing, and just put stock in that and follow after that if you're looking for someone to follow. But that's really all I have to say about this, Coco.
Appreciate that. Afro Native World in the chat asked me, did I say TK Carson? I might have said TK Carson. I meant TK Carter. For those who know who TK Carter is, RIP to him, but he had a spot on Muhammad Ali impression back in the day. Sister Cheryl said if Black people are Christian, then it makes sense for them to be conservative, to go hand in hand. So just want to point that out as well.
Coco, quickly, I just wanted to say, you mentioned Matron earlier. Matron wrote an excellent post on her channel, and she is a brilliant sister, absolutely brilliant. Anyone who have time, please, I would just ask you all brothers and sisters who are listening to read her post. It's a very, very good post. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I saw the post as well. Sister Cheryl in the chat says we got to remember our people are very vulnerable mentally and psychologically. So the sellouts are byproducts of white religion and white society. I'm gonna let that comment stay up there for a minute. Afro Native World says yes, Black excellent post from our matron. With that said, let me go to RBG. Let me go to Real Black Gentleman. Real Black Gentleman, what are your thoughts here?
I think that celebrity is a big part of the problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm a contrast celebrate with like cerebrate. You know what I'm saying? Or to be cerebral, right? Because when you're celebrating, you're not being cerebral. You know what I'm saying? You're focusing on the you know what I'm saying? It becomes a claptrap basically. You're going through the movements, you're going through the ritual. That's what celebration is about. It's about ritual, right? It's about going, you know what I'm saying? You do the thing, you sing the song, you go, you do the same thing, you know what I'm saying? It's not about having contrasting ideas at all. It's about communion, it's about coming together, you know what I'm saying? Going through the rites and all that. But I do think that it's good that young people are definitely thinking about celebrities and people who usually are, you know what I'm saying, foisted upon people, or people who want to emulate what they see as a celebrity until they are in proper celebrity status in they're handled and all that. And then you actually are going through the on stage and doing all the rites and the rituals, and everyone's singing along and going through the words. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if you recite, you know what I'm saying, words in church in a way. You go to the concert, you recite the words of the song, and you sing along with it. It's kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? People, the MCs, the master ceremony. I'm just saying in a way. We can once it becomes big, because once it becomes big, you know what I'm saying, our MCs become their MCs, right? That's another way of what I'm trying to say. It's good that young man is putting them on the spot. I mean, look, if I got pardoned, look, I don't know, I would definitely just like lay low and just like, you know what I'm saying, just like, just not rock the boat. Like it I understand like being thankful, but then like I'm not trying to glaze no one. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to glaze no one on nothing, or it's just like, oh, like do everything he says. Like that's not the play. That's just not the play. Like, Trump, even if you got pardoned, he's still worthy of being critiqued. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm trying to get at. It becomes like, celebrate me, celebrate the person who got me free, celebrate. And he's putting himself into the whole celebrity aspect. And naturally, when you're celebrating, you're not cerebrating, you're not being cerebral. You know what I'm saying? There's just one difference between celebrate and cerebrate, and that's the L and the R. And honestly, I think what happened is, along the way, what became cerebral got lost in the sauce and became cerebral or cerebral. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? You can twist around the suffixes and all that, but the root, you know what I'm saying? The root, that celebrate, you know what I'm saying? All that celeb, you know what I'm saying? That is something we got to get away from. I like a good song. I like a good story. You know what I'm saying? I do. I like a good song. I listen to music all the time. I listen to music all day. You know what I'm saying? But you can't, you don't want to meet those people. I don't even want to go to a concert. You know what I'm saying? People, and it's messed up because people on our music, like the music is always better because it's crafted in such a way, you know what I'm saying, with the samples and all that. But when you go to a show, especially if the artist is old and it's not a new artist, they're going to lip sync and they're going to be off tone because their voice done changed over time. And you know what I'm saying? It'll just be a little bit off key just because they're older. And I was listening to even going back to the verses with cause I watch, you know what I'm saying, the verses with No Limit and Cash Money. I mean, Master P's voice is not what you hear on the CD. It is not. It's just not. And it's it doesn't take people smoke, you know what I'm saying? They drink, you know what I'm saying, their voice, they sing a lot, so their voice boxes get destroyed. So it's like, it's just not the same as what they put it out on that CD sample, you know what I'm saying? That hot mixtape. It's just not the same. We can't be out here following people and expecting people who we may get a buzz off of from that song to lead our finances, to lead our politics, to lead our health. It's just not the play. The song might make you feel good, but it's not going, cure that cough, you know what I'm saying, to get that tumor out of you. You know what I'm saying? That's all I got to say.
I hope y'all picked up what RBG was kind of putting down there just now. There's some real stuff in that. You know, you guys are worshiping some singer who don't even sound like that in real life, much less what they believe in politically, and you guys are following and hanging off of that. It's just a mess. Sister Cheryl in the chat says, what's the first thing Black people do when they become celebs? They thank Jesus and God and say, with him, all things are possible. It's hard to get far in celeb world if you don't have Christian values. Very interesting thought. With that said, man, Black Steel, you heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you to all of it?
Well, it's about time, you know, and it's not even about Trump per se, although her complaint was about him supporting Trump. But it's just really how the Black celebrities, they just have no concern for the community, and I think they don't. A lot of young people don't realize that. But these people will go out there and they'll tell you, make songs about all the worst type of things in the community, and as soon as they get some money, they get their kids out of there, send their kids to private school, you know. So I think that a lot of times we don't hold the people who move against us accountable. It's been so many situations where celebrities, politicians will completely sell out the Black community, and there's no consequences for it. So there's a good chance nothing's going to happen to Young Boy. There's a good chance Nicki Minaj is going to be okay. Her rep is probably doo-doo in the streets. But but overall, financially, I'm sure he's going to be fine. But I think that these rich rappers and whatnot, they forget that they get their wealth from us. If people were not there supporting them, we wouldn't care. But also, too, they don't really get it from us because after a certain point, it's no longer Black people listen to this music. At this point, it's probably mostly white kids listen to the music now. Now that you think about it, but it was good for me to see some pushback from what he was saying. It said, "Oh, Young Boy, he the GOAT." No, what makes him the GOAT? Why are you following somebody like this? Excuse me, who is openly hostile towards you and your people and your family? Like, look at Kanye West. I thought his apology was probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Because he's not sorry about any of it. He wants to say, "Oh, I had a traumatic brain injury." That don't make you a racist, buddy. Having a head injury, that being bipolar, does not make you a Nazi. I'm sorry. But think about the list of all the bullshit he's done from even before the whole thing about Jewish people, the iced out swastika, the Heil Hitler song. He did a lot more stuff towards Black people that we have forgotten. His Confederate flag thing that he did, slavery was a choice, all that other nonsense he was pulling. And now he wants to beg for forgiveness because guess what? Those MAGA people you worship, they don't buy your music. And Nick's gonna find out the hard way too. They don't buy her music. So overall, I think it's a good thing. Maybe the consciousness hasn't been completely extinguished within our people. I find a reason to, I'm always try to be optimist. I'm happy to see that. They're questioning, and then the question is, why are these people so elevated within our community? Who's given them such standings and made them the people we should follow? This drugged out guy who can barely form a complete sentence. Why are we following him in the first place? Or why is his music even popular when he's talking about murdering other Black people? Hip hop came from a noble art and a beautiful art, and it's kind of been taken from us. I just think it's very interesting. Young people are finally pushing back on the nonsense. I think that's a good thing. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
RBG, you wanted to add something?
No, I mean, I agree with what everyone's saying. It's the whole, what winds up happening is it's like a feedback loop, right? You had, again, we can go back to the history of hip hop, history of rap, different groups coming up. You'll have independent groups who want to sound like the industry guys. Then they get picked up by the industry. If they don't, they're still like self-signed and they're still like, it's you know, it just goes back to when if someone's bumping something on a sound system, usually it means that it's not like, how would I say it? You have to have it's on the radio, you know what I'm saying? It's on the radio, and if it's on the radio, it's only a couple, like you know, it's like iHeartRadio. It's only a couple people who own like the radio, so it's like you're going, it becomes a funnel, a bottleneck of like the media, you know what I'm saying, from whatever genre that they want to produce. We don't have any of that. We don't have any independent music, any independent radio stations. That was all cut off in the 90s. So it's just a slow motion of trying to find new, we call them platforms. That word in and of itself, I think is I would love to have a topic on just on etymology and words, but that's beside the point. The way that we get hoisted onto these platforms and in these stages, you know what I'm saying? Everyone then wants to emulate them, and anyone who's speaking in a cerebral counter way, in a way that they want to be celebrated for being righteous, right? For actually coming up with something clever that that brings energy to families and the people around them. You know what I'm saying? That it gets put in the background. And until part of it is like not listening to the bad stuff. You got to first do no harm, right? You got to like cut back. You got to just cut back. Then you can start to listen to things. Once you're not consumed, once you're not filled up with bad music, you can start to listen and pay attention to things that are a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? I listen to 50 Cent. I listen to people all the time, but I have to catch myself and listen to a little bit more stuff. Listen to a little bit Daru the Jamager. I have to go back and do these things. Otherwise, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get thugged out, and I'm not really that. It wasn't meant for me to be that. I'm not anywhere in that position to even have to have a heroic kind of like defense of myself like that. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
If there's no other last thoughts on this prompt, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says, who's bigger, Michael Jackson or Bob Marley? This is an interesting one. Let's see if there's going to be any micro-nationalism going on during this prompt. Yeah. Who's bigger, Michael or Bob Marley? Let's watch the attachment that came with it, and then we will discuss it.
Super. However, patriotic can lead to blindness sometimes because you think Bob Marley is bigger than Michael Jackson.
What I mean, if me think,
you think,
show me a shirt right now and say he. Show me a shirt right now and say he. That's I'm right. When you find it, come tell me.
Show me someone that's had plastic surgery to look like Bob Marley.
Bob Marley, the poor people, we can't afford that. So get that out of here. And more poor people in the world than rich people. Yeah. Bob Marley met Berlin Wall drop. A One Love did a play when that. Rolling Stone give One Love album of the century. So what more you want to tell me about?
Michael Jackson, bro.
Michael Jackson, I don't know his virgin.
But you could go to places in Asia.
Numbers wise. We're talking about influence.
Influence?
Bro, when we're talking about influence, we're talking about white man that put on dreadlocks. You see the man, well, Michael Jackson probably influence.
It's got white socks on as well with the shoes.
Real music.
Yeah. So, bro, this man died 1981.
And that's what I said.
That.
We can't judge Michael Jackson's legacy until the same period has passed for his death for us to know whether he's still got an influence.
That Mike wouldn't unmute. I don't know what the hell's going on. Side note, that show, some of the funniest clips on social media comes from that Same show there, man. That show is hilarious. They're all funny. The brother with the dreads who cut him now, named what's his name? Dale Elliott. Funny guy too, man. So if you've heard of Major Hype and stuff like that, and you like Major Hype, check out them fellas there. Kofi, who's bigger, Michael Jackson or Bob Marley? What say you?
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry. I stepped away. You're gonna have to either repeat the question or I gotta see what you did. What's the question again? Who's bigger than Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson or Bob Marley?
Oh, that'll be Michael Jackson. Because I remember that, and it's kind of an unfair versus because Michael Jackson has a larger body of work. He was like 9, and so when he died, when he was like an old man, versus Bob Marley, who died in his prime. So it depends what we're talking about. To me, this is it's an unfair comparison because no matter where Michael Jackson could go anywhere in the world, and people recognize him. I'll say the same for Bob, but maybe not as much. Why? Because Michael Jackson lived longer and he has a larger body of work. So I can't give a real answer on that one. Sorry.
I appreciate that. My computer's acting. I appreciate, let me stop sharing that screen. I appreciate that, Kofi. At the start of the show, and I gave the preview as what we would be discussing, I mentioned that there's a couple of ways you could go about this. People in the chat are talking about it. You could go by the numbers, and the numbers are it's a blowout, right? Michael Jackson will take that as far as numbers go. You talk about entertaining stage shows. Mike might take that one too. And in fact, not Mike probably takes that one. But if we're talking about political / cultural / black empowerment, I would have to go Marley on that one. By a bunch. Let me hear what Buana has to say about it. Buana, what say you?
Of course, it's Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is a more well-known artist. Michael Jackson had the Western media, the Western music machine behind him. Of course, he's the most popular artist in the world, no question. That when he talking about popularity, even when he talking about influence, who's been more influential in the world of music? Of course, Michael Jackson. This ain't really even a question. The young people, what did Michael Jackson in terms of influence? The world is more in Michael Jackson's influenced the world in terms of popular music and what the Western people, even all over the world, chase after, as opposed to Bob Marley. Bob Marley coming from Jamaica, he didn't have the kind of access that Michael Jackson had. He didn't. He just didn't. And you can't. They sing in it's different genres of music. Michael Jackson is the king of pop, R&B, and rock and roll. Bob Marley's the king of reggae music. They sing it. It's a different genre of music and all. It's an unfair comparison. As far as being influential, in an African way. Now that's a different conversation, because I've heard many revolutionaries in different parts of Africa say that they used to listen to Bob Marley's music, Bob Marley and the Wailers music. Peter Tosh, we played reggae music is influential in a different kind of way in Africa. When they're talking about the politics of a situation, when they're talking about black consciousness, that would be a different kind of conversation. But if you're just talking about just mere popularity in itself, taking all of those African politics and different kinds of things away, of course it's Michael Jackson. No question. No question. And I have to give them on that. Not only that, I think that Michael Jackson was a better even businessman than Bob Marley. Business person, because Bob Marley was a very astute business minded person, business minded person. But I think that Michael Jackson have him hands down there. Why? Michael Jackson get the Beatles catalog. A group of people who sold more albums than him. You know, he just was a good business person, business mind in terms of music, because he learned from Joe Jackson. Also, as far as popularity, it's just hands down Michael Jackson. It's no comparison. They're just in different genres. I think it's an unfair comparison, but I'll leave it there.
So, Buana, and I'll go back and ask Kofi this. Just for you, you don't have to share the whys. Who's more important to you in your music collection? Who's more important, Michael Jackson or Bob Marley?
I've been listening to Michael Jackson at one point in my life. Okay, back in the day, you know, when he was up there, not heavily, you know, because my mother didn't like the whole androgynous kind of thing. You know, him and Prince and him, she didn't care for that. So, and then Bob Marley on the other hand, my old lady was kind of a big anti-Rasta business. You know, she didn't want that close around her. But as far as influential, I've been listening to Bob Marley since I was a late teenager, and I still listen to Bob Marley to this day. So that could tell you the impact of Bob Marley music is to me, it's timeless. It's timeless music. Michael Jackson, some of his music it resonates, not as much as Bob. I could listen to whole albums of Bob Marley. Michael Jackson, maybe one or two songs that I like the beat or whatever. But we talking about different kinds of things. So I would say Bob Marley is more influential for me, but I'll leave it Coco.
But we are talking about two different genres, though. Like I don't like when, like me, I hate when people. To me, I feel it's unfair. What do you like better, reggae or hip hop, or hip hop and R&B or soul? Like, why do I have to choose? I don't think one of them. They're animals, but they're just totally different animals. You know what I'm saying? Just because a cat and a dog has four legs, but a cat and a dog are totally opposite from each other. You know what I'm saying? One's a feline and one's a canine. So when with me, I love them both. I have memories of playing Michael Jackson off the wall, as well as Bob Marley playing Redemption Song and Who the Cap Fit. I'm not picking. I love them both.
All right, quick question to Kofi. Who do you like better, Dolly Parton or Bob Marley?
Dolly Parton. No. Bob Marley. I love Dolly. I love Dolly Parton when I was waking up. I didn't give a damn about how she sounded. I was like, God damn. I wasn't paying attention to what she was saying. But it'll be definitely Bob Marley. I'm not a big country music fan. Like that is one or two people that I may like, but nothing to me. What makes an artist a very, very well artist, and it goes for a lot of people. You can listen to their album from front to back. Michael Jackson are one of those people. Bob Marley is one of those people. You can even say Lauryn Hill. You know what I'm saying? She's one of those people. You just put it on and just let it rock. To me, that's making him a good artist. And Michael Jackson, hands down, is, they don't call him the king of pop for nothing, but he is the king.
Okay, good stuff, Kofi. Unpopular opinion. Hot take moment. Dolly Parton's version of I Will Always Love You is probably as good or better than Whitney Houston's. Hot take. With that said, Real Black Gentleman, what say you to it?
I mean, yeah, on paper, I guess I mean on Michael Jackson is bigger. How would I put it? I don't listen to Michael Jackson on repeat. I don't listen to Michael Jackson on repeat. I listen to Michael Jackson maybe once or twice a year, maybe. I can't tell you the last time I listened to Michael Jackson. I know I listened to Marley not that long ago. It's one of those things. Who's bigger? I mean, it depends on the sphere. And again, it's like comparing apples and oranges because, you know what I'm saying? I think Michael Jackson kind of, in a way, learned from Marley naturally because he grew up. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he heard some reggae growing up. You know what I'm saying? Just hear that. You know what I'm saying? I would love to find out if Michael Jackson actually had influence from Marley. That would be an even better question. I want Bob Marley to be bigger in times, although, I mean, not to say that Michael Jackson wasn't trying to have, it wasn't like, you know, aware, wasn't trying to put out a message. It's just that Marley, he's coming from it. He's coming from Trenchtown. I mean, it's different though. It's different. I can feel. I mean, Motown. It's middle class blackness is not. It's not the same. It's not. It's just different because I mean the aspiration was different. It's like it was just different. I mean, Bob Marley is half white, right? His dad's Syrian, right? Michael Jackson shaped himself and filled his skin. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that was the case or not. I don't know. It was just one of those things. But like, who's bigger? It's like I want Michael Jackson to be blacker, and I want Bob Marley to be bigger. If that kind of answers the question in a way, because like I wish Michael Jackson still had that fro and then wasn't going on that curl and was still doing the dance. You know what I'm saying? He could have still did the dance in natural hair. All that Jerry curl and his hair burning and stuff. You see what I'm getting at? It's just like we all want Bob Marley to be bigger. It's a natural mystic floating through the air. Come on, that's classic. That's timeless. It's timeless. Oh my goodness. I mean, in a lot of the world, like you say, he is bigger than Michael Jackson. Even though Michael Jackson, I don't think Marley was in the Americas, right? Michael Jackson went to everywhere in Japan and all that. I don't think Marley went to Japan. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what his tour was like. But I mean, that's my answer, I guess. I want Michael Jackson to be blacker, and I want Bob Marley to be a little. And the thing is, he's half. But at the same time, like Bob Marley was talking about, he did his job. You know what I'm saying? He didn't bother no one. To the best of my knowledge, you know what I'm saying? He was out there, you know what I'm saying, being extra just because of circumstance. It would have been known. He was like, man, he was a little uppity or something like that. You know what I'm saying? People talking, people would know by now. But right, Bob Marley didn't shit. He died too young. That's all I have to say. I mean, hell, Michael Jackson died too young, if we're going to be honest. That's all I got to say.
You know, I fuck with that response from RBG. You know, I really do. I really appreciate that kind of. It's a non-answer, but it's an answer at the same time. I kind of appreciate that. Let me read some stuff from the chat. Let me see what folks has been saying. Trigger Happy says there's evidence that the CIA assassinated Bob Marley. There's something to that too, by the way. Afternoon World says perhaps Bob Marley is bigger in black ghettos globally. Cheryl says Asian people make up huge chunks of global population, and all of them know Mike. They ain't rocking with Bob like that. She said Bob didn't dance. Even if Bob was alive, he ain't touching Mike. Let's be real. Cheryl with the shade says, did Bob write a song about his white wife while he was married to his black wife? What political allegiance did he have? I like that. I like that contrarianism sometimes, Cheryl. Cheryl's husband says Bob Marley was only big because white people liked his politics. Afternoon World says Michael Jackson didn't have any black women at all, it seems. Cheryl says, let's be clear, neither of them were political for black people. Afternoon World says, can't say that. When Bob Marley married a deeply melanated black woman, Rita Marley, I think he lost his way with the fame. Erzuliism is out. I haven't seen you in a minute, brother. Zuliism says Michael Jackson is way bigger. He says Bob Marley is not even better than Peter Tosh. Now that is a good comparison. That is an excellent comparison. We could talk about that another time. Forecast says shout out to Bob Marley, but no question in all areas, Michael Jackson. Man, good commentary from the chat. With that said, man, let me go to Black Steel. Black Steel, you heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you to this?
Well, when I posted the comment, I thought it was a humorous thing, you know. How he talks about how patriotic the Jamaican people are. Like, only a Jamaican would pick Bob Marley over Michael Jackson, right? And like everybody was saying, they're two different genres of music, right? Bob Marley with reggae, you know, Michael Jackson being the king of pop. They were both masters in, I think, of their craft, right? Michael Jackson, every now and then he showed a little bit of, you know, consciousness when he made that song, They Don't Really Care About Us, other stuff like that. But, you know, Michael Jackson was the whole package, the singer, entertainer, everything. Excuse me. Bob Marley wasn't so much a dancer, but I really enjoyed his message, right? And this was just me as a young person coming into consciousness, moving beyond, you know, just the party songs, the legend. When I would hear things like Africa Unite, you know, things that talked about Black people uniting with one another. There's a song that Bob Marley has, you know, he talks about how sometimes you feel like bombing the church when you realize the preachers have been lying, you know. And it's sort of, you know, even though it was behind a nice little tune and he sang about love and everything else, every now and then Bob would hit you with some deep revolutionary stuff, right? So that's why I enjoy Bob Marley. Not to say everybody is better, you know, Michael Jackson's better or worse. I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. I'm a big Prince fan. I'm a big Bob Marley fan. You know, I'm a big Buju Banton fan. I gotta ask Buana what he heard, because I mean, it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because I'm a huge fan of Buju. But yeah, I just feel like it just kind of shows how Jamaicans have such pride in their country, in their culture, in their music, because only a Jamaican would put Bob Marley above Michael Jackson.
Only a friggin' Jamaican. No, so I have to admire the confidence, but they completely delusional. You know, it is what it is. You know, Michael Jackson is the most popular. He was the most popular Black artist in the world. It is what it is. Give the man his kudos. It is what it is. As far as the argument between Peter Tosh and Bob Marley, what I would say to that is Peter Tosh was a better local artist. You know, in terms of maybe Jamaica, extended out of the Caribbean, Bob Marley was a more global artist. He was a bigger global artist. I would put it there.
I think the thing with Bob that puts Bob above Tosh in many people's eyes, Bob really had a good voice. He really had a good, I mean, take away the imagery and just listen to the voices. Bob had a real good voice. Where Peter was more of a raw, earthy kind of, and to be, you know, kind of like what Buana said, he was more of like a local singer. Whereas Bob had more of that international sound. But Buana, what did Buju say? I know Buju been acting kind of zesty, which I didn't like. But what did Buju say?
Well, the first thing is, I don't want my man, but the first thing is, Buju Banton was, in terms of cultural references. You remember he wrote the song "Bombay Bye," and the Jamaican community was behind him and that. But what happened is he received a lot of pushback, a lot of blowback from the LGBT community. So after he come out of prison, all of a sudden he have this revelation now, you know. He went on an apology tour. Now, needless to say, how people feel that politics is with these kinds of things, you have people evolve, you have people grow. But I'm thinking, you you have to stand on certain things, you know. So if your culture is not inclined to embracing certain behaviors, you gotta start on that. You know, I'm like, why it take you going to prison to backtrack on it? Not only that, his politics, he became involved in the politics of Jamaica, and it looked very suspect. Let me put it like that. In particular, the political party he was backing, he was on the stages representing certain people. Now, Rastafarians, for right or wrong, they kind of anti-politics. They don't really want to get into the fray of things. But this is the reason why Bob Marley was trying to remain neutral with the politics of Jamaica. And he say it's bigger than just the politics of Jamaica. For Buju Banton to involve himself in that, you know, people look at that a certain way. You know, they look at that a certain way. But I just personally think that, you know, for my politics, I think that where this revelation come from all of a sudden, I don't know. But for me, it was just, I had to look at him side eye. It kind of was a little disappointing for me. And plus, I've heard people reference Buju Banton and saying he is, you know, on a personal level, he is not the best kind of, he don't have the best kind of character. So that's maybe just hearsay. So I'll just leave it. I don't want to lambaste the man and defame the man. I'll leave it.
I mean, kind of heard. It's kind of, I learned like about a couple months ago, it was a documentary. Because that the reason why Buju Banton became famous was for the whole song "Boom Bye Bye," right? At the same time, it was really a documentary about Shabba, how Shabba, you know, fell from fame or whatever. But I don't know about that. Shabba Ranks still doing it. I went to the concert out here in Brooklyn where it was all the old school reggae. You had Shabba Ranks, you had Barrington Levy, you had Barris, you had all the big guys. When Shabba come out, yo, it was crazy. But anyway, I'm saying that to say, when I saw the documentary, because remember Shabba Ranks, you know what I'm saying, you know, it was some place where he went on some British TV or whatever, and they were talking about homosexuality, and you know how Jamaicans stay, you know, fire upon that. You know, pretty much what he was saying. So, like, oh, that's so horrible, and blah, blah, blah. And he wouldn't apologize. But at the same time, the documentary was highlighting at the same time when that happened, Buju Banton came out with the song. And Buju Banton doubled down on the song. He never apologized for the song because he was never as big as Shabba around that time. So I think Shabba was with because I have the album. Shabba was with Epic Records. So Epic Records is like, yo, you got a guy that hates gay people. And then that's how, you know, and after that, I think, what was his, oh man, I forgot the last good album that he did. I don't know if it was Raw as Ever, I forgot. But anyway, I'm just saying that to say it's kind of funny how Buju Banton was the person who was the trailblazer. And I'm not promoting, you know, anti-LGBT or anything like that. Neither is the Bit of Medicine podcast, right? I'm just saying that Buju Banton didn't care. Like, this is our culture. We don't tolerate that thing and stuff like that, and how he's coming full circle. So I just find that to be very odd. Just look on YouTube. It was a very interesting documentary.
I'll tell you something funny. For the brothers who may not know. As all them slack songs Shabba Ranks did in the early '90s and stuff like that. Do you know Shabba Ranks is a very conservative man. He had a one wife for most of his career and life. You know, he have all his children are inside his family. You know, he lived a very conservative lifestyle. People don't know that. Like I said, you have to separate the artists from their music, because some of them are completely different. And people don't know how to separate these things. They think because a person sings a song, they must be like that. That's why Nicki Minaj, people like scratching their head. They're like, wasn't you the woman and like having the same like Little Kim photos with your leg tear open for the whole world? Now you all of a sudden you're ultra conservative with Trump. People are scratching their heads because there's a difference between the artists and their music. And people,
wait, so Buana, you tell me Shabba Ranks never had a trailer load of girls?
I know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he had his one wife for his entire life. All his children are inside us. He lived a very conservative lifestyle. People don't know these things, you know, because they would think it's not slackness going on, but it's not like that not in real life. But it is what it is.
Real good discussion. Our brother, I guess Black still want to say something. I'll come back to Black still in a second. Our brother Talawa, I haven't seen you in a while. We see your counterpart all the time. He says Michael Jackson was not overrated. Bob Marley is. Goes on to say both their politics suck, but Michael Jackson's by far superior in his artistry. Shout out to D Web who's out there in the chat. A lot of Slaughter came in and mentioned Hills and Valleys. That album, Inner Heights by Buju Banton, one of the greatest albums ever written, I feel, to be honest, from a kind of a African spiritual conscious level. Yeah, man, good conversations out in the chat. You guys going back and forth. D-Web says, yeah, but Jamaicans move different. We have this very binary American view of race. Sean Paul, for example, has no African heritage, but they embrace him. Yeah, that Sean Paul thing is an interesting conundrum too. Man, if there's no last thoughts, man, I'm gonna mosey on down to Shoot the Breeze, topic number 4. But that topic and some of the so-called verses some of you guys posted in the chat, I'm gonna remember those because I have this segment concept I want to run by Black Steel when we have a chance that kind of deals with that same type of thing. You guys will see. Should be topic number 4 says, is this feasible? If it is, how would the Black world go about this? So this thing is going to take us to Twitter, I think. And it's going to take us to a tweet from my brother Kamjiverse. Kamjiverse says, I'm not one of those who believe in separating from North Africa. Black people should dominate and blacken North Africa. That is true strength and Black power. This was the only attachment to this prompt. So let me read that again. I'm not one of those who believes in separating from North Africa. Black people should dominate and blacken North Africa. That is true strength and Black power. I like that tweet. Let me see if others commented on what they say. He says, you discovered gunpowder last week. Relax. Okay, some hater. Afroculture says, make North Africa Black again. That's a good one. Someone says, yeah, Egypt could crush every African military easily. A lot of Kamji's posts, just like the brother Greathouse, get a lot of little hate under them, but all the same, that's an interesting concept. What do we, as people who are Pan-African nationalists, people who believe in Black power and Black empowerment, what do we do with North Africa? Some on this panel in the past have suggested we just leave them be. Others have suggested, no, we gotta straighten that out too. We gotta take that back as well. We're gonna talk about it later on. The brother IShowSpeed's interactions with those Arabs. We're gonna talk about that tonight. But with that said, let me hear from the panelists before we do anything else. Buana, is this feasible? What you see Kamjiverse talking about in his tweet?
No, Kamji is he looks at it from a historical perspective. There are many Black people in North Africa, Egypt, and all those places that look just like me and you, Koku. Nubia, Kush, all them places, they look just like me and you. Ethiopia, but the Arabs and the other people who've come into that area have been able to gain power in that area. And when with power, you're able to create the rules, you're able to create certain kind of controls. Not only that, you have Islam too, and that influence, that took away from the original culture of them areas. Me personally, if I was Nigeria out at like how Trump want to take Greenland, I would try to take back some of those territories, reclaim some of those territories. And I know that'll spill into a big, long asshole war that'll last forever, because those people been living in those territories forever. But if you really want to do something, you must get them out. You gotta get them out. Will that ever happen? I don't think so. But I wouldn't be so inclusive of those territories until the rightful people are put back in a position of power. I think that the black people who look like me and you in those areas have been subjugated almost to second to third class citizenship. They have really no real rights, and real say in those governments that is governing over them areas. And I think that there needs to be a renegotiating in the world. Just like as we was talking about last week, the world is realigning itself. So the Africans, and I know people will say, well, not everyone is a Bantu African, Bwana. Not everyone, some people are Neolithic Africans, some people are different kinds of Africans. So you can't just limit it to just Bantu Africanism and say, well, we should be dominant in those areas. Okay, so the people who, even though they may not be Bantu, they still look like me and you, and they've been subjugated because of their skin color. Let's call it for what it is. So to regain that power and reinstitute control in them areas, then I'll feel like we'll be cooking with grease. But I do not want to. When we talk about North Africa, everybody thinks Islam, they think of Arabism, they think of all these kinds of ideas. No. That needs to be replaced, if I'm being honest. But if not replaced, renegotiated. Where, just as in Brazil, you have 80 million people in Brazil who've been subjugated by a European class of Portuguese who went there. There needs to be more power from the black base that's building these countries and causing these countries to continue. There need to be more power. We need to be more power hungry in the world. And I ain't ashamed to say that. We need to be more power hungry, and not just accepting this paradigm that exists. Who made these arrangements where we become second and third and fourth class and accept our fate? F that. And I don't know. Maybe it's just me just talking, but I believe that black people need to be more power hungry, just as Trump is, and all these other groups and kinds of people who fronting and coming up in our faith. Marcus Garvey said the world is built on bluff. What make another man better than you? Just because of his skin tone? Fuck that. I don't believe that, Goku. But unfortunately, the world has been made to believe these things. And these are bluffs. But that's my position. I'll leave it. I don't want to run on. I'll leave it.
So, Bwana, when we get that power to make such demands, how should we do it? As Trigger asks in the follow-up, I guess. He says, do we do it in terms of conquest, or some would suggest through assimilation? Which one is it?
Well, historically, if you're talking about being able to exert yourself, it has to be through conquest. And that's an ugly word for black people. Because black people don't want to treat people unfairly. Besides other black people, of course, they don't have this tolerance in subjugating and treating people unfairly, because we've been treated unfairly. So we must find out some kind. If the black people want to be civil, let them be civil, even though it's anti-historical. But I say that you have to control. If you don't control the world, because we always talk about defense, we always talking about mounting some kind of force in the world. Bakari always talking about these things. We have to talk in terms of on these kinds of levels. Why do you think that the so-called most powerful country in the world has never invaded North Korea, even though North Korea is one of the smallest places on the planet? Why? Because they have the power, the military might to control the area, and not only that, if you try to impose your will in those areas, then they can send a nuclear missile your way. Sure, you could get rid of them, because you have enough power to do that, but they have enough power to exert harm to your people as well. Harm to your people as well. But me personally, when you talk about conquest, that's an ugly kind of word for a lot of people. But if you want your home back, what you willing to do for it? You know what I mean? What you willing to do for it? I don't know. I can't answer some of these kinds of questions. Not me by myself. Collectively, we have to get together and decide what we're gonna do. Because that's not a question for me myself on an individualistic level. You know.
Anything that you have to fight to get, you have to fight to keep. That's what you have to understand. Nothing is given to you, especially if something was taken away from you. You have to, once you fight to get it or the other person concede, you have to fight to maintain it.
So that's your response to the problem as well, right, Kofi?
Well, to Trigger's question, as far as like once we get power, what will we do with it? Will it be through conquest or diplomacy? I could walk in and chew gum at the same time. You know, I could, whatever is fitting at the time, I'll do it. If my power is being questioned or they're poking the bear, it's time to show military might. Again, we gotta go look at our history. You know, we had in that region, we had like Taharka, and we had a lot of African generals and African warlike kings that waged war on the Hyksos and the Assyrians and all the people that tried to from the north, from Asia Minor, from the Levant region, that tried to invade Egypt. Right? We're not strangers to this. We may be strangers to the history, but we're not strangers to our military might. We just have to get refamiliar. But to the original, my comment to the original prompt or whatever, I'm gonna start off with what Garvey said. Garvey said, "European for the Europeans, Africa for the Africans," and I'm gonna add, the Middle East. This is me being gracious. I explained to you why. The Middle East for Middle Easterns. So already the word Middle Eastern, I tell my kids this all the time. They know what I'm going to say. The Middle East is just a political construct, right? There was no such thing as the Middle East before. So we got to understand where these Arab people came from. And a lot of you, and I challenge you, I know I'm going to say something you're not even going to like. Africa's first open enemy, like, was people from Asia Minor and Arab Islam. The white man, the European man from the Caucasus Mountains, from the cold caves of Europe, is way more merciful than the Arab. Why would I say that? Look at history. Look at South Africa. Look at West Africa, right? All the places where Europeans had a colonial foothold. We got them out. It's like, you know what? I ain't got no time for this. I'm gonna let you niggas have your land. Okay, we're gonna get out of Nigeria. We get out of the francophone nations and stuff like that. They may have little strings here and there, but as far as like direct colonialism, as far as, you know, as far as day-to-day being in your country and we're the rule of law, okay, we'll give you your independence. At least the white man has done that. The Arab has been there longer than the white man. The Arab has been there longer than the white man. Even when you listen to John Henry Clark, he says if it wasn't for the invasion of Arab Islam, Africa never recovered. Right? I think the last dynasty, Black dynasty, was the twins in the UK. I think it was 22nd, 24th dynasty. Was the last Black dynasty, and that's how you had the people that we're talking about in right there in Ghana and in Benin, and the doggone people over there. They all moved down over there. Africa never got a break because then they kept coming and coming. Why do you think it's a bunch of Muslims in West Africa? So Dr. Clark says we never recovered, and then all of a sudden we're trying to bounce back from Arab Islam, and then you got the Portuguese and the English and all these other people coming in. We never recovered from it, but at least them white people, they left. The Arabs are still there. The Arabs are still there, and I think oh my gosh, where there's still slavery going on there. Oh, I forgot what country. In North Africa, where there's still slavery happening. The final frontier for Pan-Africanism and African unity.
Mauritania.
Yeah, well, it could be. It's Morocco, and it's not that one though. It's in Morocco too, but I think it's also
But
in
Libya?
Libya. That's still happening. How can we say we're Pan-Africanists and you given Africa's first open enemy where slavery is still happening? You know what I'm saying? That slavery is still happening. They say, well, I'm a Pan-African, I'm about my people. No, you're not. That is a sign of weakness. You have to take your land back. The Middle East, if you go further back in time, people will say, well, I'm going too far, but no, I'm going to keep going far. Even the Middle East region area was controlled by Kemet. The Mediterranean, in the Aegean Sea, they had satellites. They had islands that people, the people of Kemet controlled. Right? It's only until like later on they were like, okay, these people from Asia Minor, they keep coming. All right, they at the first cataract of Kemet. You know what I'm saying? We got blockades on the Nile. We have here, as long as they stay on the outskirts, but they keep coming, they keep invading. So no, the true liberation, true Pan-Africans and unity, which we may never live to see in our lifetimes. But I think, like either Buana or someone says, we have to want it. We have to know where Africa is slowly waking up. We have to realize like this is also our homeland, and we were pushed out of it about 2,000 years ago. And it's ours. I don't know how it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen by no Muslim black person that's a Muslim that recognizes the caliphate. Their religion has to go. It has to be it has to be race and African identity first. That's going to be the driving force. I don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but I know it's not going to be based upon religion. It's not going to be based upon local politics. Well, I'm Sudanese, or I'm just Ethiopian. You know, I'm just from Kenyan. Like, no, all of East Africa got to get their shit together. And they have to recognize as Islam as the enemy, and some black heads may have to roll. And that's the problem. Because when you talk about power, right, you're gonna have some people that are that's subordinate. So when you have your people like Idi Amin, and I'm not saying this is just war. This is just science and the history of war. You don't have some people fall in line. The heads have to roll. That's how you got your Pol Pots, the Idi Amins, and you have some people that just like, okay, you're not with this. That's it. You're done. Because I don't want you to be to hinder to this new movement. So something dramatically is gonna have to happen. Something dramatically got us in this situation. Something dramatically has to get us out of situations. There's gonna be no pussyfooting about it. Off with the Arabs, Islam's heads. Sorry, it is what it is.
Appreciate that, Kofi. I'll be honest with you, I don't really differentiate them from white folks. I consider all that to be white, personally. But good stuff, Kofi. I appreciate that for real. Let me mix up a little bit. Let me hear from Black Steel at this point. Black Steel, what say you?
All right. So are we discussing what to do about Northern Africa, about the placement of the Arab population?
Yes, sir.
In a perfect world, they would just up and leave, right? But again, they've been there for so long, it would be very difficult to dislodge them. Difficult, but not impossible. But here's the thing about African people, man. We're very nice, I remember something Dr. John Henry Clark said. He said the white man never had to fight his way on any shore. And I was thinking about how basically whenever the Europeans went exploring and whatnot, they weren't usually greeted with a swarm of arrows. Most times they were welcome. They were given gifts, given food. They were helped around. African people, like people anywhere, have been warlike. They've been conquered. They've been conquerors. you know. But I think that our greatest strength is many times our greatest weakness. Um, and that's the fact that we are so friendly to outsiders, right? That has been used against us multiple times. I would say this. I would predict that most African nations, so let's say it's this hypothetical African world power that exists, right? I would say that more than likely they would come up with some kind of arrangement to coexist. And what would happen is the Arabs would wait until they felt like they had amassed enough power, and boom, they would then come and take over again. So you can't have that fifth column, so to speak, in your ranks. Um, and I think that's part of our problem is that we don't have an African centered worldview, and because of that, we've allowed too many people within our who are our open enemies. You know, you can go back in history, you can read about how some European missionary came and he was given safe conduct, and then when the Europeans showed up, boom, you know, he helped them conquer, show them where all their secrets were. So that's the problem, is that I think it has to do with our psyche, with our mentality. Um, we are friendly people, we are kind people, we are loving people, but then at the same time, we're on the bottom of the hierarchy when it comes to being exploited. And I think there has to be some changes in that. Africa has to come up with the mindset of we're not going to be exploited by anyone yet. You know, we're not going to let anyone um, take our land and take our resources. So I don't know. I definitely understand the need to, because you can't just leave them there. Okay, we're gonna let them sit there and be all some kumbaya hakuna matata type of stuff. That hasn't worked historically with them, right? But at the same time, you see the world is basically dividing into armed camps. You know, we're coming back into a multipolar world with, you got the West, you got Asia, the Chinese and whatnot. It's time for Africa to carve out a place in this multipolar world, right? This is something that we have to come from. We cannot no longer let a handful of psychopaths, a handful of pedophiles who run the world continue to threaten all of humanity. So this is just something that we're gonna have to do. How could it be accomplished? Again, uh, if it comes down to it, they gotta fall back. But like Kofi said, you gotta be ever vigilant. So let's say hypothetically speaking, okay, these African nations, which there's still a large black population in these countries. It's the Sahara Desert, so it's pretty sparsely populated, but there's still a significant amount of African people who are there. You got to be vigilant. You can't be in a situation where, okay, we're gonna let these Arabs come in and do their thing, and they can, worship Allah in peace, and we won't bother them. No, because they're not going to be content with that. They're going to be content with trying to work with their brothers and sisters in Saudi Arabia, in Levant, in Lebanon and whatnot, to try to spread the word, because they have a evangelical religion. They feel the need to spread their religion to everybody else, and they feel that they're doing us a favor. So I don't think they can be just left alone. I would think that, hey, we could all get along, but history has proven we can't all get along, and history has shown that we can't work with other people as far as living in Africa. Because whenever we let them in, be it the Europeans, be it the Dutch, English, or in East Africa, it always turns out to be they always betray us, right? But I think we have to realize we're at war. I think that the war mindset needs to be our mindset, because we don't realize that we're at war. No matter how hostile these individuals may be to us, right? They may take a licking, they fall back, and they come back with even greater resilience. We have to be as resilient as they are. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Last but not least, man, RBG, Real Black Gentleman, is this feasible? What Kamji is talking about?
Yes, it is. It can't happen overnight, but it is very, very, very feasible. The thing is, as Africa, if we're talking about Africa and Islam isn't just affecting West Africa. If people are not paying attention, you know what I'm saying, over there in Tanzania, you know what I'm saying, and Oni and them, like you see what's happening. If you pay attention to the characteristics of the leader, you know what I'm saying, over there, you know what I'm saying, is a Muslim. If you know about Tanzania, you know, Zanzibar was an island that was the Muslims where they had slave trade. It's an ugly island. And you had the mainland, but you know what I'm saying, because they have the power sharing, they kind of go Muslim, you know, Christian, you know, kind of do the back and forth thing with that. So, you know, say even Mozambique, you know what I'm saying, Congo is some Arabism in there too. Arab is still on the march. Let's not get this confused, especially in East Africa. Let's not get this confused. You can do it. When we talk about Arabs, 80% of Arabs are in Egypt. And so that's where a lot of their push goes. A lot of their push goes north-south through Sudan. You know what I'm saying? Africa needs a rapid support force, just like the Sudanese. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it could obviously come from Nigeria, but Nigeria is still conflicted with itself. Wanda said, you know, understanding our greatest strengths, our greatest weakness. Nigeria is an example of black people's greatest weakness, of just black people just tearing at each other with the Nigerian Civil War. There's no need for that. I mean, just the way that it went down is crazy. It's basically three groups fighting against each other. It was ugly. It you know, with the religion, Christianity too, because you know what I'm saying, Nigeria needs a traditional revival, and a lot of that can come from the center of the country where it isn't so Muslim, it isn't so Christian. A lot of the people in that middle belt do have a sense of traditionalism. Still, I recognize that, right? Big scale, Africa's going to have to organize politically. The political units got to be reduced. I've said it. I'll say it a billion times. After these clusters of confederacies, you cannot have 40 black nations and 40 black agendas. It will not work. 40 turfs, chunks of turfs for these white people and Arabs to, you know, pluck at one by one, while 40 different agendas are will not work. Congo and Tanzania, again, I know what Tanzania. If you connect those two territories near the equator, just into that, you would have a coast to coast territorial unity, which I think is important for trade. Instead of having ships going around the Cape of Africa, down the Cape, down to South Africa, you could cut off that trade and send it through the middle. Again, I don't think that naturally. I think you'll have enclave nations. I think Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, places like that, they probably can be kind of isolated out from that. And I think they I mean, those people do. I mean, it is what it is. They are independent on their own just cause, like, and you will have enclaves. You will have Lesothos, like in South Africa, because Lesotho is surrounded by South Africa. It's not South Africa for its own reasons. And it's good that it's not South Africa. However else it can be influence or whatever. It's its own country, right? You gotta have some enclaves, but you do need coast to coast. You gotta have this equatorial belt. If you can't have that, you gotta have, you know, if you're gonna go into North Africa, you gotta, I mean, you just look at the numbers. It would, if it turns into like hardcore Arabism, Egypt is gonna go heavy west across North Africa. It's gonna have a monster of a so-called rapid support forces. You understand? This is what's going to happen, because it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like 95 million, you know, people. Now, you do realize that even in Egypt, there are some black people. You know, it might be grim for them because they might get picked at, but you always find some darker skinned Egyptians who would consider themselves Arabs to be on the side if you can get contact and work with them, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to have this like Sahel region locked up. Again, ideally coast to coast. You can't do it with Sudan though. So, like I said, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Chad can. If Chad is critical, I don't know what Chad doing. I don't know what they doing. They next to Libya, Sudan, Egypt. and next to the AES. I don't know what they're doing. They again, a lot of these enclave isms when it comes to the geopolitics, a lot of that has to shake or break. You got to have a coast to coast band of just wall to wall disunity politically. The rules from coast to coast, the rules, and whoever the leader is the leader. It might be, it'll probably be real strong manish. You'll have a. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Hell, if you can get the people, democratically, educated and knowing what's going on, you can have traditionalism, you can have current events. You can do that in the same day. It can be done. You know how they whitened North Africa? Because they got all the men. But you know why they're not as dark as us? Because hell, it'll only take 2 generations to turn a white person into a pretty nappy black person. Because the women had enough sense to run away. The women right now are running to Dubai. That does not help. What will happen is they'll have a son. They'll make him out to be the axe to go against the African forest, because look at him. He looks like us, but his daddy is Arab as fuck, probably rich and on some agenda, on some kind of business swags type shit. I'm telling you, it can be done. And honestly, if you can dominate it and blacken. The only way you're going to blacken it is you know what I'm saying. People going to have, you know what I'm saying. They're going to have to dip into that sauce. And so that's part of it. It's just naturally. It's just we call it assimilation, but it's not really assimilation. You got to dominating means having your military on fleck to defend against basically Egypt, yo. And you can do that, but you got to have the center, because that's where all your minerals are. And that's not to say there's not minerals in West Africa either, but we know what's in the Congo. That has all the shit that everyone needs. We know that. They know that. You gotta band up. The African nations are a Rothschild construct. It's a Rothschild construct. When we talk about Berlin, the founder of that was them Rothschilds, for real. And so that's why the AES is gorgeous. I mean, again, black people have tried to do this in the past. There are economic, you have ECOWAS. I'm talking about the rules, politics. You got to have one country, ideally coast to coast. These constructs called nations that people all prop up, and I got an army in this turf. All that gotta go. The map has to be radically changed. I know y'all hear me talk, but y'all don't. When you see these African nations, you gotta scramble that up and see a whole bunch of big nations with a couple smaller nations in there. You know what I'm saying? Little enclaves, but you gotta have some coast to coast. You gotta be coast to coast. You can do North Africa, but you really need Central and Central Southern Africa. You only need South Africa, but you got to get Botswana. You might need Botswana, Congo, Mozambique. You got to, if you're going to go after the Arabs, you got to get East Africa too. Africa's big, a lot of moving parts, and you got to reduce the moving parts by reducing the political units. You cannot have 40 different African nations at all. It is in fact a Rothschildian construct. We can talk about Berlin Conference, but you have to talk about the the African Association, the precursor to it. That was that Rothschild, yo. When you know what Rothschild is, we got to keep digging a little deeper. I wish I never heard John Henry Clark talk about, the Rothschild founded that. I'm telling you, I found that out a couple years ago. I don't hear no one talking about that. Oh, for real, them peoples who started all this breaking up of this? Oh, we got to change this map. We have got to swallow our pride and make business decisions about political turf in order to even go up and run up with some business, with some business. Oh, we trying to buy you out. Yeah, we trying to buy you out. Yeah, we want your bitches too. That's all I got to say.
Real Black Gentleman, Trigger Happy in the chat, would like to remind you of the Barbary slave trade. He said you will be surprised that it's the reverse of what you said in terms of blackness in 2 generations. Does anyone else have any thoughts about anything they read in the chat or saw or heard on the?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Quickly. And to build on what the brother just said just now, to build on it, the problem is in America. On this point, FBA has a point. FBA has a point. And I know people say, "Why FBA has a point?" There's this popular YouTuber. His name is Myron Gaines. Now, if no one knew, they would think that he is a regular black person because his name is Myron Gaines. But he is really, a Meru Fidel, and he comes with a particular baggage and mindset and thinking. So a black person in Egypt, he may be a black person who looks just like me and you, but because of his Arabic mindset, he goes from Kwame, Amadou, but he really thinks like Hakeem Wadafari, he really thinks like that. And if you put them in an area, they will still create a problem. You must get them all out. Or if you don't get them out, you have to get the ideology out. You have to get the thinking out. Because, like I say, the North African problem really and truly is you have black people mixing with Arabic people who are creating a buttress group of people who are also working against the original black people in that territory. It's just creating greater and greater issues and problems. So if you don't get the people out themselves, you must get the mindset out. That's all I wanted to say, Coco. I'll leave it.
We also, I'm also curious to know if people feel that having absolute power also means subjugation. Because to me, that you're becoming what you hate. So some people like the Hebrew Israelites will say like, yeah, because when we get power, we're going to have you in slavery. So I hope people doesn't mix up power with subjugation. And I understand if some of us feel that subjugation is power because that was done to us and that was used as a form of power, but that's not usually a form of power. I remember years ago, I was looking at a documentary about slavery in America, and it's really saying, well, yeah, the black person's enslaved, but also the slave master is also enslaved too, because that slave knows that he's not supposed to be doing that, and that slave master also knows he's not supposed to be doing that. So he always got to do what? Watch his back. So I guess I'm kind of answering my own question that I have, but I just hope people don't confuse subjugation and power being the same thing.
I don't know, Kofi, I hear what you're saying. I do not, me personally, let me speak for myself. I do not want to subjugate anyone. But the issues of power, the thing is when you draw this line, because you don't want to be absolutist. And I understand that because you don't want to oppress anyone else. And it's an ugly word, especially in black people's lexicon, because they've been subjugated. So they're very careful with that. But I'm telling you that if you permit certain people within your territory to have certain kinds, when they too free, they can say, well, listen, it only become a matter of time where he can say, well, let me remove you and replace you with me. So as long as you could live peacefully in a territory that's run and governed by me, and that's okay. And it never come a time where you feel like you could buttress against that and say, well, let me run over you and your people as well. We are falling into the same trap. We are falling into the same trap. So I don't want to be enslaved by oppressing other people. But how the world actually works, man. I wish we could live in a world where we don't have to worry about these things. But everybody is watching their back in the world. America has to watch their back because they feel that they're going to be replaced, even though they're the top dog right now. Rome had to do it. Egypt had to do it. All these are the real discussions we really need to have. If you sit in the first place position, there's going to always be people who trying to take your crown, bro. That's just how the world works. So you have to live in that kind of reality. If you're the top dog, understand there always gonna be hungry dogs out there who trying to get your crown. So you have to live in that reality, but you have to have a say so in the world as well. Because if not, if you think an idea of sharing, brother, you're gonna end up in your subordination. It don't need too long when it could come to that. Because the hungrier dogs, they're gonna take you. They say, "Oh, he believe in sharing. I believe that I should run it." That's how these people think, bro. It's an unfortunate kind of conversation, but I kind of try. I want to live it. I want to talk real things. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want. Well, let me leave it. Let me leave it.
So basically, you're saying if we were to have our way, it will have to be a democratic dictatorship monarchy. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I would say it need to be democratic as far as like the people, the black people, the black African people elect their leaders, because you don't want corruption, human nature. But at the same time, it's gonna have to be like a dictator. It has to run like a dictatorship and a monarchy in a way, as far as like this is a democratic system, but we're only giving certain people rights. If you want to come here, if you're a foreigner, you want to come here and do business and things like that, yes, we could do that. But you cannot get any position within this thing. Like, look at you. Look at the United States Emirates. You think not any Arab person can just come on there? You have to be a particular type of Arab. And number one, you think an African or a European could be on the level of Prince Salamani? No. That's not happening. They have levels to this. They have who's accepted, who isn't. We need to have a organization where it's like there's no way you get it in by just skinning and grinning and get a position. No, you have to let them know we could only do business, and that's it. You want to stay for a little while? Fine, you can stay for a little while, do business, and get the fuck out. Nice.
Absolutely, and I understand the brothers want to live in fairness, and it shouldn't matter the color of your skin. All I am saying is the world. Have you ever, Kofi? Have you ever seen a white woman married to a Chinese man with power, great power, presidencies? But if you go all over Africa, one African president was married to a French military or police officer, and that was allowed to go in a country full of black women. That should not stand. That should not. That's disgraceful. That's saying, well, we do business. We open to everybody. You know what I mean? We do business in the world like this. The world doesn't operate that way yet. When we get to the fair world, where people don't perceive things based off of skin color alone, that's fine. But until we get there, brother, I am trying to deal with the reality that's in front of me, not eventually how we would see the world to be in the idea of fairness. And we both know that the world does not exist on fairness, brother. And like I say, this is a sticky discussion because the black brothers them don't like these kinds of ideas because it seems oppressive as they were oppressed. But I'm just trying to approach it in a way that how the world actually operates. You know what I mean?
We need to get a W. Again, as long as we get a W, hey, like you said, the world is not fair. Gun, germs, and steel. White people use they and I always say white people never came into Africa not once guns blazing. A military tactician would never do that, right? They had to learn and study us. Then they screw us from the inside, from the inside out. And we have to play that game as military tacticians. We have to. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but it could happen. It's just I think it starts with united sub-Saharan Africans uniting together as one conglomerate from east to central to west. Recognize their blackness, move in blackness, and then look north. And like, you know what? Senegal be like, we have a scholar called Sheikh Anta Diop, and he spoke about this, that. And Hidefai Obenga, he spoke about that. Wait a minute. We need to get that back. And I think slowly but surely we'll get there, but we have to be united, be on one accord, and stay the course.
I just want to point out, too, that because of the interaction we've had with these folks, whether you want to break them down into individual groups, Arabs, Christians, this, that, but because of what we have to deal with this enemy that we've had, we are always going to be affected And I want people to, if you haven't thought about that before, to think about that. We're always going to be affected by our interaction here. Even when we get to that place where we have our power, we have our nations, we're good, we're straight, we're still going to have to keep this fucker in our rearview mirror. Always now. All right? If not, we're right back in it. If there's no last thoughts here, man, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 5, our final topic for tonight. And in fact, it continues this same conversation a bit. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5. Did I write that? Right. Oh, yeah. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 says all of North Africa was black, but became mixed. Speed was dealing with mixed people coping. So this comes with originally 1, but I added another little prompt to it. This comes with 2 prompts. You guys can see my screen. We'll watch this first video and then I'll play the second attachment.
For many centuries, North Africa shared the same predominantly black African demographic as the rest of the continent. In this video, we explore the transformation of this region into its present-day ethnic composition, which includes a significant Arab and Berber population. The common perception that North Africa is white is a simplification that overlooks the region's diverse ethnic history and the substantial black African influence on the civilizations of Egypt and the Maghreb. While it's true that parts of North Africa, such as Libya and southern regions of Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco, retain a strong indigenous African presence, the broader notion of North African whiteness is a more recent development in the area's long history. The black African roots of Egyptian civilization are well established and widely recognized. Even during the era of Egypt's decline and subsequent conquest by the Greeks, philosophers like Aristotle described the Egyptians as exceedingly black. An examination of the palette of Narmer, the first pharaoh of unified Egypt who was black, shows how he apparently sacrificed white foreigners in 3300 BC. The demographic landscape of Egypt underwent significant changes over the centuries, with a notable increase in the white population starting around 1300 BC. This shift began during the reign of Pharaoh Meremptah, when white individuals, primarily in the roles of prisoners of war or servants, started to have a more permanent presence in Egypt. Egypt later experienced a series of invasions by various external powers, including the Assyrians, Persians, from what is now Iran, Greeks, and Romans. These invasions had a profound impact on the indigenous black population, many of whom were forced to migrate to other parts of Africa. Those who stayed in Egypt gradually integrated with the incoming populations, leading to a mixed ethnic group known as the Copts. We have covered the ancestry of Egyptians Copts in a separate video. See the video description. The Arab conquest of Egypt in 639 AD, followed by 3 centuries of Ottoman, Turkish rule, further diversified the ethnic makeup of the country. These historical events collectively contributed to the whitewashing of Egypt, transforming its demographic profile from a predominantly black African population to a more ethnically diverse one that includes significant Arab and Turkish influences. Around 1300 BC, during the reign of Pharaoh Seti, historical records first visually described white populations in Libya known as the Tamahu. The exact duration of their presence in the region before this time, and whether they had any connection to the whites depicted in the Narmer palette, remains unclear. When the Romans conquered the Maghreb region after defeating the Carthaginian leader Hannibal, they encountered a significant black population in areas now known as Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. The Romans referred to these people as Moor, the region. In both Greek, Mor or Mores translates to black, leading to the interpretation of Mauritania as land of the blacks. Even the name Morocco is thought to have its roots in the term Moor. Over time, the meaning of Moor has shifted, now often associated with a white demographic, but this change reflects the evolving ethnic composition of the region, rather than the original meaning of the term. European historical records strongly suggest that black populations have always been a part of the Maghreb's demographic makeup. In Libya, known to the Romans as Barbari, due to the raiding activities of its nomadic people, both Greek and Roman accounts describe inhabitants with scarified and painted faces, braided hair, and totemic practices, pointing to a distinctly black culture. These societies were noted for their matriarchal structure, a common characteristic in many black communities. Additionally, historical documents from the era mention a small Ethiopian nation extending from Tripoli to Tunis. The term Ethiopian comes from the Greek Ethiopus, meaning burnt faces, a reference originally applied to the black people of Sudan. This further supports the presence of black populations in Libya during these ancient times. When the Arabs expanded into the regions of Barbary and Mauritania, they began referring to all the peoples of the Maghreb, a term derived from the earlier word Bari, and initially encompassing a diverse population without regard to color. Historically, the term Berber was associated with predominantly black peoples. These indigenous groups formed the majority of the forces that entered Spain in 711, marking the beginning of the Muslim for 781 years. A vivid description of these troops, so the 10th of Spain described the Moorish soldiers as having black faces like pitch, with even the most handsome among them being as black as a saucepan. The French epic Chanson de Roland, which recounts the 8th century battles between the Franks and Africans in northern Spain, similarly describes the invaders as being black, with wide noses and large ears, likening their skin color to melted pitch. Thus, it is from European sources that we gain insight into the appearance of the early inhabitants of the Maghreb. Estimates suggest that by the end of the Muslim period in Spain and Portugal, there were about 3.5 million black individuals, whose modern descendants bear surnames like Moreau, Maurice, Moran, Moreno, Moore, Murray, etc. The transformation of the Maghreb from a predominantly black region to a more ethnically diverse one with a significant white population is partly attributed to Arab influence. However, a critical factor was the slave trade of Europeans, particularly Germans and Slavs, by Muslims, which began as early as the 8th century. The Encyclopedia of Ukraine notes that between the 15th and 18th centuries, 2 to 2.5 million people were deported from regions like Ukraine, Belarus, and Moscow. White men were often castrated and deported. These enslaved whites, especially women, were distributed throughout the Muslim world, including the Maghreb, likely in greater numbers than blacks, contributed to the lighter skin tones seen in modern Berber populations. The Ottoman influence also played a part in this demographic shift. The presence of Negro, African, European, and Semitic Arabic elements in Berber languages today reflects this complex historical intermixing. While these conclusions might not be universally accepted, especially among the Berbers themselves, they offer an explanation for the evolving ethnic landscape of the Maghreb. Initially a predominantly black region, the Maghreb's demographic shift to include a significant white population resulted from interactions with the first whites of Libya, the Arabs, the Turks, and the impact of the white slave trade.
Yeah, good stuff. I also saw this post by Typical African, who tweets here, he finally said of North Africa. He finally said nothing but the truth about the real inhabitants of North Africa. Let's take this, just give this 40-second video a look.
This is real Berber. The people of North Africa today, they are not the historical Berbers. Aryan people speaking an Aryan language called Farsi. Just like the same Aryan people who speak Hindi in northern India are not the ancient dark-skinned Vedic people who speak Sanskrit. Donald Trump is not a Native American. Similarly, people of North Africa and Middle East today, like Bassem Youssef, are not the ancient Egyptians, not the ancient Arabic or dark-skinned Berber people. This is real Berber. The people of North Africa today, they are not the historical Berbers. Similarly, as Iranian people today are not the ancient Persian people. They are Aryan people speaking an Aryan language called Farsi. Just like the same Aryan people who speak Hindi in northern India are not the ancient dark-skinned Vedic people who speak Sanskrit. Donald Trump is not a Native American. Similarly, people of North Africa and Middle East today, like Bassem Youssef, are not the ancient Egyptians, not the ancient Arabic or dark-skinned Berber people. This is
It's funny how and men do this a lot. Men do this a whole lot. We talk around the things that kind of hurt us, right? We'll talk about it, but we won't address it directly. I find it interesting when folks talk about these aren't the original people, which is true. What happened to the original people? A lot of times they stop short of actually telling you what happened to the original people. A lot of those people were killed. But I guess the hurt of it is so heavy, we just kind of speak about it and let you infer the rest. You know? It's interesting, man. I want to mix it up. I'm going to go with Black Steel first on this one. Black Steel, what say you?
A lot of information here, a lot of information. That little comment you made about what happened to the original people kind of struck with me because I was reading something today about Namibia and how Namibia has some of the lowest populations of any country in Africa. But then you come to realize the reason Namibia has such a low population is because the Germans committed a genocide there in the beginning of the 20th century, which is usually unspoken of, the genocide of the Herero people in Namibia. So, which basically kill out half their population. In some places, 80% of the population. So, yeah, I say all that to say, we let these people, as far as the information about North Africa being mostly black, I mean, of course it was. But then the country with the largest Arab population is Egypt, right? Which is Northern Africa, 55 million people. That was all, I don't think they're all Arabic, but I mean, a good percentage of them belong to the Arab people. Yeah, it's like we said in the original topic, we just really have to figure out a way to deal with the traitors in our midst. And I think that by becoming more protective of our land and our culture, we can do that. But yeah, I'm not surprised to see this at all. That as far as this mass depopulation of Africa, it's a heavy subject. You don't know where to begin. But I would just say that just this knowledge in and of itself is a good thing because when people, I've met these, Egyptian storekeepers, I'm African too, they like to say that, oh, I'm from Africa, I'm Egypt, right? But I'm like, okay, but are you really? Because you're not black, are you really an Egyptian? It's like when they have the Afrikaners claiming they're Africans, when you have like the Boers and the Afrikaners, so we're African. No, you're not. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. We'll move right down the line. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
I mean, the thing is, when you talk about, this whole thing again about North Africa and the whiteness and North, like I said in the chat, when I'm talking about Egypt, Egypt is a different animal than Libya and Tunisia and Algeria and Morocco and Yemen. It's a different animal. It just is. The black people who got caught up in in those countries, again, the Sahara is a beast. You can't really cross it. If you're there, you got to be tactful and cagey with being black. As a man, they kill you. Chop off your balls. That's like I'm saying, like, it's not fair to talk about how, these people, I see what it's trying to get at. It's just a different dynamic of trying to be where you are and being able to escape. You can't escape into the desert unless you have transportation. Not to say that there aren't cars and all on roads, roads get clogged, with sand. It's different. I think, the idea that, black people can't, you can do it. You just have to show up and just, part of it is just a acclimation to it. You know what I'm saying? It's like kind of get used to black people being around. And when we do go, it's kind of like on you know what I'm saying? It's just like sitting in scouts and sitting in, you know what I'm saying, recon and businesses, you know what I'm saying? You can go in there strong and, you know what I'm saying, and defend your interests and just demonstrate that you will be able to defend your interests. I mean, that's all it's all about. Go to a place, go see, conquer whatever it is that you're trying to do there, then leave. And you don't have to be there, and just it will defeat the purpose of you even going in the first place. Part of it is just like with IShowSpeed. I mean, again, going back to the beginning, IShowSpeed, right? He went up there, but at least he tried. I know he got an audience, and it's just like I wish you would comes into play. It does come into play when you got a billion eyeballs on you. I wish you would. You got to give the young man heart. He did come with that I wish you would pack. Yeah, you going up there and they're gonna talk his shit. Look, like I said, you know what I'm saying? It's a mixed bag. It's not going to be just send in an army with swords. It doesn't work like that. This is 2025. You're going to have a comprehensive, integrated whole engagement scheme. It's not going. You're going to have the right hand won't know what the left hand's doing. It's going to be so complex. I mean, look, I believe African people can do it. Dealing with mixed people. I mean, so they're mixed. I mean, they're Arabs. I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's not even that deep though. It's just like, look, black people can go. It's, you know what I'm saying? If black people, in Nigeria, just for what it's worth, if Nigeria can get itself straight and get its head out of the book and get its head into some trade skills, 250 million people. You can build roads from here to Johannesburg. Are you shitting me? You can't just like, all right, you know how to do this. Each one teach one comes into play. At this point, each one teach 10. And you can't do that for, you know what I'm saying, how many times a year for so many, you know what I'm saying? You can't, you know what I'm saying? A lot of things don't cost money. Learning really doesn't cost money. It does cost, you know what I'm saying, like, the kind of tools, you know what I'm saying? You just have to have a sense of knowing how to learn something and then profit off of it at a sustainable rate. That isn't like gouging and, you know what I'm saying, turning off customers and shit. It's not that hard, but I mean, a lot of that has to do with, scaling. I mean, Africa does not have to be in this Nigeria and this Cameroon and these countries like this. In my heart, I believe that shit. That's the problem. I can't be like, oh, the Congo's doing this, and you know what I'm saying, the Ivory Coast is doing this, Senegal's doing. I don't want to see Africa like that because I know better. That's the worst part about it. I mean, it's just like hard, like power sharing and power adjustment. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If it's for the greater good, and you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, you get got. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like, you know what I'm saying, we thought it was going to. A lot of times power comes from like small groups of people being able to overwhelm and beguile smaller entities, a lot of times one by one. You just take off a big thing and just take it off in the bigger chunks. Sun Tzu doesn't really apply. I get that. Sun Tzu says, well, you can be so 10 to 1 if, you know what I'm saying, if you're cutting them enough. They don't know what hit them. That's all you do with the Arabs. This whole like, oh, well, if black people fucking Arab, they'll become mixed. And if black people stay on their business and be there, it'll be more black people there. If black men make things secure, then the black woman will come and the offspring. It's like it's simple genetics. All this bullshit purity about well there'll be this they might be in contact with a person who would be considered to be African. That you know what I'm saying, trying to contrast categories, that ain't gonna play. It's just going to be a naturally blackening, just like Kimji was saying. That's all. I'm done.
Appreciate that, real black gentleman. In the chat, the matron says, some historians say that black people want to marry out. My anecdotal observation is that they exchange women and slaves to keep the peace. The thought was that they would integrate, dominate. Trigger Happy says, now Libya, you could argue that Italy has a lot to do why it's small in population and the lack of black people. He says to RBG, most Saharan inhabitants are black, though. The matron goes on to say, then we have to deal with the invaders that came in unalived the men and impregnated the women that were left. We thought we were dealing with humans, not cave beasts. Trigger says to the matron that might apply more to Egypt, but depending on the time period, it may apply less to the Maghreb. He goes on to say maybe Vandals and Byzantines within the Kabyle region can be a case study, but there were black people in that region as late as the 1800s. He says, also forgot to mention when they kicked out the Moors, lots of white Muslims came to North Africa too. Going down the line again, Kofi, the Black Critic, what say you to this topic?
Can you repeat the question again or the prompt? I wanted to be very surgical with my response.
Says all of North Africa was black but became mixed. Speed was dealing with mixed people coping, and then the videos talked about how there was this Arabization of these North African regions.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with the video there. I mean, to me, you could tell these people are similar. They know that these are his people because he was getting mistreated in North Africa. I think when he went to Europe, they were throwing bananas at him. So they white people and Arabs, they're cousins. That's how you get an Arab. I'm saying there are a lot of white mix, and and that's just what you get. So they have the same sensibilities, even though they have a different culture, different religion. Now, I always, in my studies, always saw that the Berbers were mixed. They were whites. They were, they're like the mulatto of North Africa and the so-called Middle East. That's what they were. So when people say the original Berbers were black, I'm like, linguistically, that doesn't sound like a traditional African group. So when they say they're originally black, I don't get that. Unless they're trying to say the original people mixed in with the invading forces that was there, then yes, I totally get that. Saying around the Maghreb and Morocco and that area in the Levant region, I get that. But yeah, I have nothing really to say when it comes to this particular prompt. It's what he said. Everything is absolutely 100, and it's pretty much my stance is pretty much what it was in the last prompt. Like, we have to understand the makeup of these people. Hey, I would say use Islam against them if you can. You know what I'm saying? So use Islam if there any animosity. Like, hey, brother, remember, I know I'm Habib. But wasn't Muhammad's first convert named Bilal, and Bilal was a slave, right? So please, brother, don't treat me like that, brother. You know what I'm saying? Try to use their religion against them. You know what I'm saying? Because they like to say, like the white man, oh, we're Christian, and da, 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 da. But they never follow the practices of Christianity. So same thing with Islam. We should use that against them. And we have to also realize, I'm going to talk a little bit soft, because my sons, we have to understand, my sons, you have people in this generation and last generation that they may or may not know what's happening. It's like, hey man, fine, I'm Arab, I'm from Kenya, I'm from Lebanon, I'm from Morocco, whatever. I don't really care about that stuff. I'm 19, I'm 30, I don't care, right? But then we have to have people like my son. They have friends that are Muslim. I don't know what country they're from, but parents are cool. Kids are wonderful. We have to understand, in reality, when you're teaching your kids, that is fine. As individuals, those people are fine. But those people as a collective are dangerous. This is how we have to look at these people, because it's fine. I don't know what people's relationship that they have with people in the world, because we're here on YouTube, we're talking, right? But in real life, do you have Muslim friends? In real life, do you interact with them? Do you have family that interacts with them? Because we're going back in a continent, definitely you're gonna have some black Muslims. Definitely you're gonna have even some Africans that aren't Muslim. They're gonna have some Muslim friends or people that intermarry. So how do we deal with that? That's the real question, because now there are a part of our country, they're a part of our society. They're in our family. So how do we go about that? We have to deal with this from a psychological standpoint to get to the people on our side. You know what I'm saying? We can always wage war, but I want to do to them what they did to us. I want to invade the minds of their people, so they could just, all we gotta do is just tip them over. Because how did Arab Islam invaded North Africa and the rest of it? Through trade, through Africans being spiritual, godly people. Hey, I got this new religion called Islam. Really? Yeah. Hey, try it out. Okay, I'll try it out. While we're trading and stuff like that. And then that African person goes to another African person that he's trading with, and he spreads that religion. You know what I'm saying? That's the nice way how it went. Other way went with the sword, but that's how it happened. But people who wouldn't convert, they did it with the sword. Either you take this Quran or you off with your head. But we need to have that real talk. How will we have that talk? And I think we need to have that talk with our peers, people on the continent, people that are Muslim, like you would talk to a white supremacist or a white or a black person understand they're engaged in the white supremacy. I think that's how we have to engage it, because again, like the video says, they're mixed. So when you're talking about them, you're not just talking about an abstract concept or someone that's way over there, thousands of miles away. No, you're talking about my cousin. You're talking about my aunt that I love, that my cousin Farouk married. Like, I think that's how we have to attack this. So it's pretty much it.
I appreciate that take, Kofi. I really do. Buana, what say you?
I actually understand Kofi's son when he says that, that I don't really care. I think that I understand him when he says that.
Oh, hold on. My son said he didn't care. What I mean to say, when you talk to our children, my son does understand. But what I'm saying,
no, I get you. Okay. I got you. But I understand his perspective. But what I'm saying is that I feel like the black man has had the ability to clearly define what the problems are. Not only that, he is clearly able to define what his oppression is. Not only globally, this gentleman right here, he is able to go back to history and say how blacks the black population in the Maghreb was once purely black. He is clearly able to define the problem. We globally can define all our problems in the world. The question becomes, what are we willing to do to solve the problems that we have that's in front of us? So if I ask this gentleman, which organization are you currently a part of to rectify the past issue that created the situation that you currently are under? And if he don't have an answer for me, how could I help you if you aren't willing to help yourself? How could I get in the fight if you aren't willing to get in the fight yourself? We talk about Bob Marley, and the brothers on the panel say, well, Bob Marley wasn't political. Do you know that the reason why Bob Marley was the only black man to sing to Zimbabwe's independence? And part of the reason for that is he was providing financial, military support for the revolutionaries in Zimbabwe. He was providing monies to them. Fidel Castro saw a problem that existed under Batista in Cuba, and he's running on about the problem initially, but he said, let me go solve the problem. Let me go correct the injustices that exist in our society. And I'm willing to do it even if I die. Adolf Hitler do the same thing too. I read Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler do the same thing too. He say the problem that exists in this state is because this
Juana, I know I'm cutting you off. You said you read Mein Kampf, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I always wanted to read it, but I'm here in the United States. I don't want to order a Mind Kemp and I'll get on the FBI watch list. So me and my friend always like, do you got it, bro? I ain't ordering that.
It's on Amazon. They sell it on Amazon. So if it's on Amazon, you must can buy it. Needless to say, I read it a long time ago. And he described point for point what the problems was in his society. And then he say, I willing to go and try to solve the problem that exists. And he went to jail for it. As a matter of fact, he was willing to die for it. So I'm asking the black man globally, not just in the Maghreb and North Africa, but everywhere else. Yes, the problem exists. We see it in our faces every day. What are you willing to do to alleviate and correct the problems that you see that exist? Because if you're just talking, we're just talking. And we're going to talk about 2,000 years ago and what happened yesteryear and all these other kinds of things. What are you willing to do to correct the problem that exists? And if you ain't willing to do it, let's stop talking about it. You know what I mean? Let's stop talking about it. Let's stop having discussions over it. Because it ain't serious. It's from my point of view. And I say that this is a teachable moment with the young brothers. And I understand them. They live in a different world. Because everything is fast food. Say, man, daddy, you described me the problem. I can't solve that problem over there. I have some problems that exist right now in front of me, and I have to correct these problems. And the young people are willing to do whatever it takes to resolve their issues, even if it's a minor problem of money. They're willing to go to work, and that's a fight in itself. Get up every morning and go to work. So these people who are talking about the yesteryear issues that once when was and when we used to, I'm asking the question: what are you willing to change the circumstance? If you're not, leave it alone. Leave it alone. That's where I am. That's where I am in this. And I ain't trying to be disrespectful to no one. This is just where I am in my head. You know what I mean? But maybe because where I am in my head right now. But I'll leave it.
So, I mean, there is a point of let's go over the screen. There is a point of there is that stage of having to discuss a thing before you just run into trying to solve a problem. Maybe they're still at that stage.
Maybe Coco, but these problems existed. If you ask this man to tell you, these problems existed for hundreds of years. So I mean, how much discussion got hundreds of years? In the western part of the world, we have the same kind of issues where we're dealing with the same problem for hundreds of years. So when you gonna really, some of the brothers them try to initiate and solve themselves, they get together collectively and they did fight, they did struggle, and we continue to struggle. So I'm asking the brother in this video, point me to the brothers who are actively struggling, so I could, if I feel inclined to, let me throw some money in that direction, so I could put some energy behind what you are describing as an injustice with black people. You can't. I mean. But if you don't do it, see, I used to live in the UK. The UK have a discussion culture. They what's it called? I forget the name of it. The analysis of paralysis, where you talk about something for 100 years and never work it out. But that's a poison pill, because you never actually get. This is what they call it. That's why they have parliament, which is a stage to not get anything done, any actual things done on the ground. But Coco, if you was inclined to, if you wanted to get something done tomorrow, you gonna get up and go do it. And full stop, period, or whatever. There's time for discussion, absolutely. There's time for planning, absolutely. But you're presenting to me 100-year problem. So should it take 100 years before I actually try to solve it? I don't think so. But like I say, that's just me.
Yeah, so the thing I'm trying to drill down on is then we're in the same, just in general, Pan-Africanists. The first Pan-African Congress was what, 1909? We've been discussing this thing for over 100 years. So should we take that same advice that Buana's putting out right now? I'm asking Buana in particular. Should we?
There are Coco. There are people. You say the Pan African Conference was 100 years ago. From that conference, You saw a black star in Ghana. Ghana became an independent country in 1950 something. So obviously, Kwame Nkrumah saw the importance of not only creating his own country, but putting it along the lines of Pan-Africanism. There's Julius Nyerere, did it with his country as well. A lot of these countries, African countries at the time, fell in line. They operationalized the things that they discussed. They just saying leave it on the table. We continue to do the same things and continue in that tradition right now. I am on a panel with brothers from all over the world right now. And there are going to be listeners from people all over the world. How we use our conversations and what the takeaways are from it, it going to really talk, it can go to what our own personal characters are. But this is a small little chasm of many other brothers who have the same kind of discussions. You have brothers out there who are completely white nationalists. But with us, we have a different kind of focus and goal. We have a different, so if everyone speaks to their own porch, eventually it can become a bigger thing. You know what I mean? Because if I go to New York City right now, you're going to take me among brothers who kind of think the same way. If I go to Atlanta, I'm experiencing the same thing with Brother Bakari. So I'm saying that show me what the issues are. Say, Bwana, how can I'll ask her, how can I assist in what's going on? Because all of us have a little small problems within our own enclaves with our different kinds of issues. So if we work at our issues collectively in a smaller space, it's going to create a way, just as the brothers them did it in Africa and in other parts. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to fight until the fight is over. But you can't just continue to dialogue and talk forever. Not forever. I mean, let me help you. Tell me how I could help you in what your struggle is. And that's what's not being said in these kinds of videos. You putting something before my face and it's really oh thereism. Because I'm watching and I say, oh there. I'm really sorry that happened to him. But I'm on the point where it's like, I'm asking, how can I assist in whatever the struggle is? I don't even know. You even point me to a group of people where I could, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe I'm just ranting. Maybe I'm just ranting.
I appreciate a good rant from time to time, man. Is there any last thoughts on this part? So then, you know what? Before we leave the panel, let's do our shout outs for this week, man. Let me just go right down the line. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week? Maybe Black Steel is muted, or is it me? Let me go to Real Black Gentleman then. Real Black Gentleman, what would you like to shout out this week?
I'm gonna shout out another YouTuber. You know the African Diaspora News Channel. I'm gonna shout them out. I always like.
Are you crazy, brother? You crazy? Phil Scott.
Yeah. I love Phil Scott, man. Phil Scott. I like Phil Scott. I like his perspective, man. I want to give a shout out to him. I was thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember, like, it was like Phil from the Advice show, man. And this man done cleaned himself up, got himself. This dude done wrote some books. I just had to go ahead and just like pay attention to what he's doing. I think he's doing a lot of good work. I think, you know what I'm saying? I like his content. I like his format. I like the programs. I like the faces. I like the voices. I like what they talk about. I've been stuck on just like content and just like people. I just want to give a shout out to, you know what I'm saying? Just give a shout out to Big Phil. That's my shout out.
That's an interesting shout out this week, man. But appreciate it all the same. Kofi, what would you like to shout out this week?
I mean, if we shout out sellouts and coons, I'd like to shout out Tariq Nasheed, Yvette Cornell, Dan Calloway, yeah, all that. You know, if that's what we're doing now, like, God damn.
Do you think he's actually like how is he a sellout? I'm trying to figure that one out.
He's
a
D writer for Tariq Nasheed. He does the same, brother. I don't know. I don't know how often. I don't even listen to him often, but just people like Haven, Bullets, other people will report what he's saying, and he's on that FBA coon train. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know.
I used to look at him for like a hot minute. I was like, oh, Phil, okay, he's a Pan African, you know. But then he starts talking greasy about Africans, these Africans, and and we FBA and all this other nonsense. I'm like, oh, okay, unsubscribe. So whatever, man. I wanted to just shout out to IShowSpeed and on the Better Medicine podcast, Kogu, for coming here every weekend, doing a very good show, bang up job, and you know, putting topics out that you know really that's intellectually stimulating. So shout out to you and IShowSpeed.
Appreciate that, brother Kofi. Which reminds me too, shout out to the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, or if you are on the Discord and you're not really participant, let's be participant. It's a free app.
Yes, Buana.
Yeah, Buana. Let's hop on there, post our Shoot the Breeze topics, post to the general chat, post to the Shoot the Breeze lounge where we could continue some of these Shoot the Breeze conversations. You know, so if you haven't joined already, look for the Discord link down in the description of the episode and join, man. With that said, man, Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
No, shout out IShowSpeed. That's a young kid's name. You know, shout out to him. You know, he's really done a good job in creating another kind of perception of Black people in Africa. So shout out to him. I saw people from different parts of the world crying, saying, "Oh, we never thought Africa." That was hilarious. I'm like, do these people think that? But if you don't know, you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. So shout out for his efforts. The real RBG got to tell me why you love Phil Scott so much. I mean, I don't. He used to be a real down to earth guy, man. But I don't know. He let his right wing politics. he's really having a. He's going hard at us, man.
I'm not a leftist. I'm not a leftist.
No worries. No worries. No worries.
I'm not a conservative either. But I believe me. I just look. Yeah. I guess you know what I'm saying. How do I say it? It's hard for me to find. Man. It's hard for me to find. Again, it's not just him. And again, I'm not listening to it just for him because I mean, it's just I listen to people. It's hard for me to listen to. It's hard for me to listen to a place of sensible content of around the world, unless I'm gonna like actually go and like read the news. I could do that. I used to do that, and I don't know. I don't want to explain myself. I think that I know what you guys are see with FBA. I just see it as being like it's not going to be used for its intended purposes. I'll tell you that because I think Black people know better than that, and since we evolved, I'm telling you, all the flaws will be resolved. That's all I'm gonna say. People are not gonna start attacking immigrant people. A lot of that's hyperbole. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
I can show you a video where a guy was harassing I forgot what Caribbean island he was from, but it was in a subway station. And he was harassing him.
Yeah, tell RBG tell Phil to go easy on us. Tell this man, you know, because he's go hard on us, man. But needless to say, shout out to all the good brothers on the panel. You all did an excellent job tonight in making great contributions, man. But I'll leave it there. Shout out to all y'all. Be safe for this week, eh?
Yes, sir. You be safe as well. Shout out to you and all of you guys. Kofi, Real Black Gentleman. I guess Black still went to sleep early on us. But shout out to all of you guys for joining us tonight on the panel. Shout out to you guys in the chat for your conversations. I really appreciated that. Again, join the Discord, man. We could do with more diversity of thought. You know, I'm sure you guys are in different parts of social media, seeing different conversations. Post them on Shoot the Breeze so that we can have those conversations as well. All right, guys, man. You guys be good. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bitamedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Beta Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Beta Medicine Show, Twitter, Beta Meds, Tumblr, Beta Meds, Instagram, Beta Medicine.